Hello and welcome to Open the Introduction Gate, a Dragongate Introductory Presentation by Scar the Skelly. This is my 2025 version of a presentation I originally created and uploaded to my Tumblr in 2024. I have decided to go back and not only create a new presentation for this year, but record myself talking through it and upload it to my YouTube channel. I have done something similar for another promotion that I love, DDT. I was originally going to upload this right after Kobe Pro Wrestling Festival 2025, but things did not go to plan, so I pushed it back to here instead. A few things I have to say here. Number one, I would like to thank anyone who is watching this who showed their support on Dramatic Dream World. I really appreciated it, as I was quite nervous and self-conscious uploading it, so your kind words really helped me. Number two, unlike the last time, I have just straight up stuck all the links that I reference here into the description of this video. And I've also added all of the links for Dramatic Dream World to the description of that video as well. And finally, number three, there will also be chapters embedded into this video so you can jump around and come back to certain parts. I know for a fact that this will be long, longer than Dramatic Dream World, so please utilize these. Here are the contents and also Ishin. We have what is Dragongate, important information, championships, factions, and finally the bulk of this presentation, wrestler profiles as well as some staff profiles. We're going to jump right into what is Dragongate. What is Dragongate? Dragongate Japan Pro Wrestling, or just Dragongate, DG for short, is a Japanese professional wrestling promotion. Operating since 2004 and based out of Kobe, Hyogo, it is the byproduct of Ultimate Dragon's promotion Torimon. Technically they are separate promotions, but they are basically the same promotion. This is why the Dragongate logo says since 1999, because that's when Torimon Japan was founded. Don't worry, I will explain the history here in just a moment. Hold tight. Dragongate is one of a kind when it comes to their in-ring style, the dedication towards factions, and the fact that the roster is almost exclusively Torimon Gym / Dragongate Dojo trainees, with few outsiders. If you're curious about the makeup here when it comes to homegrown Torimon / Dragongate talent and outsiders, I've counted it up and only 8 of the 47 rostered Dragongate talent were not trained by Torimon / Dragongate. Even further, only 2 of those wrestlers are Japanese. Now we have the important information, the stuff that you need to know about Dragongate. As mentioned, let's go over some history of Torimon and Dragongate. Wrestling legend Ultimate Dragon decides to start up a dojo in Mexico, known as the Torimon Gym, to give Japanese wrestlers to be the chance to learn Lucha Libre right from the source while still in a more familiar environment. To showcase the talent he trained, he creates a promotion called Torimon Mexico in 1997. Later, in 1999, he would establish Torimon Japan. In 2004, Ultimo would depart from Torimon and take the name with him. The Torimon Japan promotion would then become Dragongate. Don't worry guys, Ultimo, aka Dad, came back home with the milk. He has since rejoined Dragongate, but he only acts as a senior advisor. He didn't take over the promotion since he returned. Next we have the big shows of Dragongate. Their marquee events include Kobe Pro Wrestling Festival, which is their biggest show of the year, Dead or Alive, Gate of Destiny, the Gate of Origin, Championship Gate, Dangerous Gate, Memorial Gate, and Final Gate. Now, Kobe Pro Wrestling Festival is commonly referred to as just Kobe World by fans. This is because the venue that Kobe Pro Wrestling Festival is held at is called Kobe World Memorial Hall. You can see it on the right. So people just call Kobe Pro Wrestling Festival Kobe World because it's shorter. Next we have the tournaments in Dragongate. Dragongate has 2 annual tournaments, the King of Gate, which is single elimination, and Radio Powerhouse, which is round robin. The King of Gate winner challenges for the Open the Dream Gate Championship, and the Raid Powerhouse winning team challenges for the Open the Twin Gate Championships. The Raid Powerhouse usually happens quite early in the year. Meanwhile, the King of Gate can show up anywhere between the middle of the year or right at the end of the year. So the King of Gate tourney replaced the Torimon El Numero Uno tourney and has been held almost annually since 2005. There was a break in 2009 due to everyone fighting each other too much to care about the King of Gate. Raid Powerhouse is a more recent addition to the lineup, with the history of it being that they held two, one in 2003 and the other in 2004, and then they replaced it with the Summer Adventure Tag League when Ultimo left for Milk. These summer adventures started in 2007 and would run annually until 2016. The Raid Powerhouse would return in 2023 after 2 decades of being gone. A recently brought back tournament is the Young Dragons Cup, which is for the most recently debuted members of the roster. The winner of that can challenge for any title that they please. The Young Dragons Cup is not yet confirmed to be an annual tradition, as they only brought it back this year after reviving it from Torimon. Now we're going to look at the championships, the prizes to be won in Dragongate. First up, we have the singles championships in Dragongate. First up, we have the Open the Dreamgate Championship, which is the top prize to be won in Dragongate. The current champion is Shun Skywalker. You can see here in this image that there are keys hanging off the belt. These keys are given to the challengers of the belt. The champ retains, they attach the key to the belt, and these keys can be used to unlock the lock that is on the belt. Then we have the Open the Dragongate Championship. The current champion is Ryu Tanaka. This belt has a weight limit of 85 kilos. The belt strap is white, so the champion can metaphorically paint their own colour. Here are the multi-man championships. We have the Open the Twin Gate Championship. Current champions are Kota Minoura and Jason Lee. And then we have the Open the Dragongate Championship, which with the current champions being Luis Mante, Flamita, and Bendito. All three of the Dragongate belts are identical, with them most often being held by factions to signify the strength of said faction. Right now, however, it is being held by 3 individuals who are not all of the same faction. And I should also mention the Open the Awari Gate Championship. The current champion is Kunshinbo Kamen. It is Dragongate's comedy belt that was revived in 2023 after being shelved in 2018. It first appeared in 2007 with a different design as to the one seen here. They did try to use the old belt for its second run, but the old belt was very worn down and simply unsalvageable. This new belt was literally crafted by roster member Yokosuka Susumu. That is his cat in the left photo. It's not defended very much at all, but when it is, you win the title not by winning your match, but by getting the louder fan reception at the end. Kunshinbo is on the right with the belt. You may recognize him if you watch DDT. Now let's turn to the factions of Dragongate, where the lines are drawn. First up, we have Natural Vibes, which consists of Strong Machine J, KZ, UT, Flamita, and Big Boss Shimizu. Then we have Z-Brats, which consists of Madoka Kikuta, Kai, Ishin, Jason Lee, Kota Minoura, Yoshiki Kato, and Gianni Valletta. Then we have D-Courage, which consists of Dragon Daya, Yukio Shioka, and Ryu Tanaka. Finally, we have Paradox, which consists of Yamato, Susumu Yokosuka, Dragon Kid, Naruki Doi, BB Hulk, and Kagetora. There's Love and Peace, which is Benkei, Sho, Rita, Jackie Kame, and Mochizuki Jr. Then we have Kung Fu Masters, which is Ho Ho Lun, Hori, or Genki Horiguchi, Riichi Tominaga, or Punch Tominaga. Then there's Mochizuki Dojo, which is Masaki Mochizuki, Ryu Fuda, Daiki Yaniguchi, and Akihiro Sahara. Everyone else is factionless in Dragongate. Now we're up to the bulk of this video, our profiles. Who the hell are these people anyway? First up, we have the fun-loving Natural Vibes, who were well known for their entrances that include a group dance. First up, we have Strong Machine J. He's a former 4 times Dragongate champion. He was born the of He's from Yokohama in Kanagawa. He debuted on the 10th of April 2019. He is also referred to as SMJ or just J. His birth date, shoot name, height, and weight are all unknown. He is the son of New Japan legend Super Strong Machine. Jay was a fan of wrestling by the time he was in middle/junior high school and wanted to be a wrestler by the time he had graduated high school, but his parents were against it. He'd keep this dream of his on the back burner until his dad retired in 2018. So if you're wondering why Jay chose the Dragongate Dojo, it's apparently because he felt like the junior division, or as they're known in Dragongate, the Brave division, were given the chance to shine. Prior to him joining Vibes, he led the Strong Machine Corps. Strong Machine Corps were essentially an army of Strong Machines, including Strong Machine J, Strong Machine F, Strong Machine G, and Strong Machine K. Strong Machine F is Don Fuji, Strong Machine G is Gamma, and Strong Machine K is Suji Kondo. He would get courted by a few different factions, including High End, with J being treated to drinks thanks to their leader Yamato. Jay would however reveal his love of breakdancing in joining Vibes, not paying Yamato back for all the drinks that he bought Jay. If you're curious about what this moment looked like, we'll have a link in the description to a clip for you. He is the leader of Natural Vibes, a position that was bestowed upon him by former leader KZ. Although he loves dancing and vibing naturally, he didn't get the Killing Machine label for no reason. He can be quite fierce. He won the Tokyo Sports Rookie of the Year award in 2019. He has won 6 of the Reiwa New Generation leaders. The Reiwa New Generation leaders are the 6 men named by Madoka Kikuta after he won the Dreamgate at Dead or Alive 2023 to be the ones to lead Dragongate through the Reiwa generation. If you follow New Japan and you know about the Reiwa Three Musketeers, similar concept. He loves K-pop girl groups and motorbike racing. In particular, with K-pop, he really likes LE SSERAFIM. If you want to know more about Jay, there is an English interview down in the description with him as well. And quickly, before I go off this profile, the picture of Strong Machine J that I'm using here, as well as the next picture of KZ, were both given to me by Mark Gutstoser. Sorry, Mark, almost messed up your name. He saw me complaining about how I was annoyed at the Dragongate roster page because Strong Machine J and KZ still had renders where they were holding the Triangle Gate, and I was like, I don't want to use these renders because they are not the current Triangle Gate champions, and it'll become the Pentagon Gate, not the Triangle Gate. Which is funny as that is just really annoying for my little brain. And he just sent me the older renders where they don't have the titles. Fun fact, as I'm recording this, I had to re-record this. They literally updated the renders, and this is the one that they have of Jay up there right now. So I look like I'm insane complaining when they have updated the renders. But I swear, when I was making this, and when I first recorded this, they did not have the right renders yet. But luckily, just before I was going to get this out, and I was doing edits and re-recording, they updated a bunch of the renders. So I will not get to up them at the moment because they did change the renders eventually. But I do just want to thank Gutstoser for giving me these renders ahead of time so I could record and re-record before now, or I would have had to wait even longer. So thank you, Mark. Speaking of KZ, we have KZ. He's a former 2 times Brave, 2 times Twin, and 9 times Triangle Gate champion. He was born on the 26th of June, 1986, and he's from Ebetsu in Hokkaido. He debuted on the 9th of December, 2006. He began his career as MCKZ, a hip-hop loving rapper. His shoot first name is Kazuki, which is where KZ came from. He worked as MCKZ until 2009, when he turned heel and renamed himself to KZ as it's spelled now. As a heel, he was in possibly the most iconic heel unit in Dragongate, being Mad Blanky. He was outlandish in his style and a shit-stirring gremlin who got his ass handed to him for his troubles. As a face, he's a very positive influence, is strongly protective of his faction mates, and loves engaging with the fans. He is the founder of Natural Vibes, and as mentioned, the former leader. I try to encapsulate KZ's leadership skills by mentioning that KZ willingly let Kame leave Vibes and join Big Hug because he knew it was what Kame truly wanted, even though Kame had expressed that he would stay in Vibes, which is just Kame not wanting to rock the boat since Vibes was experiencing hardship and the aftermath of a betrayal. Despite rapping and hip-hop being not as central to his gimmick as it was back when he was first MCKZ, KZ does still rap in both his solo theme song and the Vibes theme song, the latter of which he does perform live. He must have had at least 1,000 different hairstyles by now, it feels like. He has beef with fellow Hokkaido native BB Hulk. So BB Hulk is from Sapporo, which is the big city. Meanwhile, KZ is from Abetsu, a small city. Hulk was initially pissed off that he had to share his homecoming shows with KZ because they don't go up north too often, only about twice a year. And they go to Sapporo, which is where, Hulk is actually from, but KZ is not. Hulk even used to call KZ a country bumpkin. That was when Hulk was a heel, as you can tell. But since then, they're both now faces, so things are relatively civil. Maybe still a little bit competitive, but not as vitriolic as it used to be. He is easily in Shun Skywalker's top 5 least favourite people list, which is an impressive achievement. You may be saying, why? Shun has beef with just about every member of the Dragon Gate roster, so being this high up on the list is like, wow, he must really hate you. Despite this hatred, these two work very, very well together. I will have linked in the description. One of their matches is up for free on YouTube. Please check it out. It's really good. Also, in the description will be a match that he had with Adam Brooks in Prestige. Also a really good singles match of his. And also, Adam Brooks is Australian. I'm Australian. I feel like I need to support my boy. He's one of the funniest wrestlers on commentary. So Dragongate shows that don't have official commentary will have one feed that is just the venue audio, and another that is wrestler commentary, which, as you'd expect by the name, is the wrestlers, sometimes other staff members, on commentary. KZ loves to sing, do impersonations, and cool moves like Attitude Era WWF commentators. Will it ever be KZ time? The international fan base has a running bit, as KZ's catchphrase, "It's KZ time," seemingly doesn't refer to it being time for him to hold the Dream Gate. It's gotta happen one day, right? Do you want to really quickly mention that KZ was one of the men who was in Vegas for Mania Week? A bunch of Dragon Gate wrestlers went overseas to participate in Mania Week shows. That includes KZ himself, Ultimate Dragon, Shun Skywalker, Kota Minoura, Ishin, Susumu Yokosuka, Yamato, Dragon Kid, Ho Lun, Ben K, Hyo, and the general manager, Rose Saito. So if you're like, I saw some Dragon Gate guys during Vegas Mania Week, may have been one of those boys. May have been KZ himself. Who knows? Next up we have UT. He's a former 1x Brave and 3x Dragongate champion. He was born on the 23rd of September 1993. He's from Nagoya in Aichi. Debuted on the 14th of April 2013. UT is derived from his shoot name, Yuta Tanaka. He was meant to debut in his hometown, but instead followed Ada and T-Hawk to Mexico, debuting there instead. He continued to work in Mexico until he returned to Dragongate with Ada and T-Hawk and debuted in Japan in August of 2013. These three, alongside Yosuke Santa Maria, Flamita, Kotaka, Olenderman, and Rocky Lobo, would be Millennials. Millennials were a group very strongly influenced by Mexico and Lucha Libre, UD having latched onto the Jave style of wrestling. Still relies on it heavily to this day. It's one of the more confident Spanish speakers in the promotion, other than the actual Mexicans in the promotion, of course. They're the best at speaking Spanish. So Millennials would last until 2015. During this time, he won the Dragongate for the first time. He would go on to be in the factions Tribe Vanguard and Dragongate Generation during the Generations War. So the Generations War was a period in Dragongate where most of the roster was divided between Torimon Generation, talent who had trained in the Torimon Gym and debuted for Torimon, and the Dragongate Generation, talent who had either trained in the Dragongate Dojo and debuted for Dragongate, or outsider talent who had started wrestling for Dragongate during their existence as that. Although they were offshoots, mainly the main heel unit RED, as well as Team Boku and Masquerade. So he became a member of Vibes in 2021 alongside Jackie Kame through a public audition that included dancing and old man antics. He won the Bravegate for the first time this year in front of his hometown crowd, defeating Homare in the finals of the tournament to crown the next champion. You can imagine my surprise when I saw Yushi for the first time in 2023 and went, oh, he must be only like a few years into his career. Man, I said he's only like 24, and then I went up to look up how old he is. I went, holy shit, you really fucking swerved me there. Next is Flamita. He's a former 1x Brave, 1x Twin, and 2x Dragongate champion. He was born on the 30th of November 1994, and he's from Mexico City in Mexico. He debuted on the 12th of December 2009. He's a third-generation wrestler. His father and grandfather were both wrestlers. He got his name, which means Little Flame, from his uncle, who was also a wrestler, named Flama Roja, or Red Flame. He had 2 stints in AAA, one from 2011 to 2016 and the other from 2018 to 2019. He also wrestled for Lucha Underground, PWG, and ROH. Most notably, he won the ROH 6-man tag titles with Bandito and Ray Horus. Yes, that is Bandito of AEW. He also won the Progress tag titles and the Crash tag titles with Bandito as well. He first appeared in Dragongate all the way back in 2013, debuting for Millennials. He would win the Triangle Gate with Ada and T-Hawk. Then Flamita would go on to win the Gate in 2014, becoming the youngest person to ever win the title at 19 years old. Defended it 9 times, which is one of the highest defense rates in that title's history. If you're curious, Pac, also of AEW, has the most defenses with 11, and Flamita ties with Dragon Kid for the second most defenses with 9. So he worked in Dragongate until 2019, before not being seen in Japan again until 2022. This was when he worked for GLEAT as a member of the Black Generation International faction. So he would end up happening to be in Hong Kong the same time as Dragongate. So he would have a singles match with KZ, where the then leader of Vibes asked for Flamita to return to Dragongate and join Vibes, and Flamita accepted. Finally, we have Big Boss Shimizu. He's a former 4x Triangle and 6x Twin Gate champion. He was born on the 26th of October, 1992. He's from the Sennen district in Osaka, and he debuted on the 25th of May, 2013. He has a background in gridiron and shot put. Started watching wrestling at 4 years old, and by the time he was in high school, he was interested in becoming a pro wrestler. Luckily for him, a teacher at his high school knew Shingo Takagi, and in 2011, Shimizu would join the Dragongate Dojo. As a rookie, he was Ryotsu Shimizu, being renamed to Big R Shimizu when he joined Dire Hearts in 2014. After Dire Hearts disbanded in 2016, he would join Monster Express. In 2018, he would turn heel on them and join Anatas, which would later become RED. He was a heel until 2020, when he was kicked out of RED for losing a steel cage survival match. He would go back to the name Ryotsu Shimizu and spent some time working as a parody of Ultimo Dragon, known as Boktomo Dragon. Diamante, now known as Louis Mante, would win his mask off him, and Shimizu would end up joining Natural Vibes initially as King Shimizu, but eventually changed his name to Big Boss Shimizu. He's currently taking a voluntary hiatus from Dragongate after serving a 6-month suspension from Dragongate for a contract violation. No, we do not know exactly what Shimizu did to deserve such a punishment. I really wish we did, but there's not much I can do about that. He seems to be a big WWF/WWE enjoyer. This is evidenced in his Rikishi-inspired gear, as well as other Rikishi references, such as him doing a arms cross pose with sunglasses, a la Too Cool. He also uses a variety of both WWF and WWE themes in his Instagram stories. And most recently, I even saw him use Rhea Ripley's stomp pose when he was announced in the ring. Next, we have the heel faction of Dragongate, Z-Brats. First up, we have Madoka Kikuta, who's a former one-times Dream and one-times Twin Gate champion. He was born on the 28th of September, 1999. He's from Katazawa in Ishikawa. He debuted on the 6th of June, 2020. It's the same class as Jackie Kame and the since-departed SB Kento. The latter had quickly turned heel and joined RED, gaining a lot of success with them. This was in comparison to Kikuta and Kame, who was still struggling. RED notices and extended their invitation for both of them to join. Kame rejected the offer, but Kikuta accepted, turning heel on Kame and becoming Hip Hop Kikuta. So Hip Hop Kikuta and his current nickname Hip Bomb both come from Kikuta's impressive rear that he uses as a weapon. He has a fat ass and he's not afraid to use it. So he swiftly rose up the ranks like his peer SBK and even challenged Shun Skywalker for the Dreamgate in 2021, but the match was stopped due to Kikuta suffering from a dislocated shoulder. He missed a year recovering from the surgery that he needed, being silently removed from RED's ranks. By the time he had returned, he was once again a face. So he ended up requesting to join D-Courage. At first he was a pinch hitter for them, but after Kikuta and Daya won the Dreamgate, he became a fully fledged member. So by pinch hitter, I mean that at this point D-Courage only had 2 members, and Dragongate do a lot of trios matches, so they needed someone to help in that regard, and that's just what Kikuta was there for. So Kikuta betrayed D-Courage at the end of Dead or Alive 2025 and is the newest member of Z-Brats. He has since usurped Shun as Z-Brats leader. So Kikuta wanted Dragon Daya and Ryo Tanaka to kick Yuki Yoshioka out of D-Courage because he was weak and kept losing for them. He even tried to make Yoshioka untrustworthy, but Daya and Ryo stayed by Yoshioka's side, so Kikuta turned on them and Yoshioka was shaved bald. I think Kikuta was jealous of the relationship between Daya and Yoshioka in particular, but that's just my headcanon. So Kikuta is the youngest Dreamgate champion ever. Kikuta actually beat Shun's record for this by beating Shun himself in the same venue, same show he dislocated his shoulder against Shun in, which might just be like the perfect story. He is 2/6 of the Railroading Generation leaders. I love Kikuta for many reasons, but one of them is that he has an absolute banger of a theme that I am linking in the description. Go listen to it right now. You may have noticed. Hang on a second. Where's this? What's happened here about Kikuta and his hair? He is also bald. He did not lose the hair mask Steel Cage Survival match. He was just fine, but Strong Machine J cut a chunk of his hair off in response for Kikuta going at Jay's mask. So Kikuta just went fuck it and shaved his whole head. I think it works quite well with his new attitude. So next up we have Kai. He's a former 1-times Dream, 3-times Twin, and 3-times Dragongate champion. He was born on the 20th of May, 1983. He's from Yokohama in Kanagawa. He debuted on the 22nd of February, 2007. His other accomplishments include 2-times World Junior Heavyweight Champion, 1-times World Tag Team Champion in All Japan. He's also been a former 1-times KOD Tag Team Champion in DDT, his partner being Ken Oka of Gunbarrow Pro. He trained in All Japan under Keiji Muto, but actually debuted in Mexico before debuting in Japan a year later. Won the All Japan Real World Tag League in 2011 with one Seiya Sanada, aka Sanada. He left All Japan in 2013, shortly after transferring to their heavyweight division, affiliating himself with Wrestle One. He won the Wrestle One Championship 3 times, became a freelancer in 2016, working in All Japan once more and 01 before showing up in Dragongate for the first time in 2018. He came into Dragongate as a face, working with Tribe Vanguard and siding with the Dragongate generation during the Generations War, but he turned on his partner Yamato in 2020 and joined RED. He is now the final member of Z-Brats, who was a member of RED prior to Hyo inviting Shun in. His catchphrase is "bye bye" with a double hand wave. He likes to spread his legs for the camera. And he is the irresponsible single father of Z-Brats. This is the same Kai that teamed with Taichi to face Zack Sabre Jr. and Chris Brooks at the All Together show in May last year. You can thank Kai for the Dangerous Tekka's Kiss. He also very recently worked Noah's Wrestle Magic show in the main event. Speaking of people who worked for New Japan, Kai trained at Animal Hamaguchi's gym and was apparently close with fellow Hamaguchi trainee Shingo Takagi. This, of course, was before Kai was in Shingo's home promotion of Dragongate. Small world, huh? Next up, we have Ishin. He's a former 2 times Brave and 4 times Dragongate champion. He was born on the 27th of October 1997. He's from Musashino in Tokyo. He debuted on the 20th of September 2021. He entered the industry as Ishin Ihashi alongside his brother Riki. They were a tag team known as the Ihashi brothers, were referred to as pro wrestling's first thoroughbred professional wrestlers. This is because their mother is former wrestler Itaku Hozumi, and their father is Koji Ishiriki, who was a sumo turned wrestler. Riki would end up retiring, leaving Ishin alone in the promotion. Quickly began to butt heads with fellow second generation wrestler Mochizuki Jr., with Masaki Mochizuki and Kojin Ishiriki doing the same. After an unsuccessful Dragongate challenge, the two families seemed to reconcile, and Ishin Riki requested that his son join the Mochizuki's faction, M3K. M3K would happily accept Ishin into their fold, Junior especially seeking Ishin's camaraderie. Unfortunately for Junior and M3K, Ishin would end up betraying them to join Z-Brats, winning the Dragongate championships on his first night in the group from M3K. He changed his name to Ishin and disowned the family name. So Ishin revealed that he did not want to be in M3K or hang out with Junior at all, and he felt particularly betrayed and embarrassed by his father's actions. Despite him disowning his family, Ishin Riki still posts about his son very often, invites him to his produced shows as like the big attraction, and they hang out at Ishin Riki's bar. Ishin still shits on his dad though, poor guy. Yes, he was once small enough to be in the Brave division. He had washboard abs once upon a time, which he has happily said goodbye to. Ishin has said that if any of his fans miss his abs, then they'll just have to look back at photos of them, because he's never getting them back. This doesn't seem to have affected his fanbase though, because Dragongate fangirls get it. Funnily enough, Ishin's official Dragongate profile still has him listed at 78 kilos or 171 pounds, even though we know for a fact he is now over 100 kilograms or 220 pounds. Ishin is low-key one of the most beloved members of the promotion because he is the most unserious member of Z-Brats. So when Ishin first joined Z-Brats, he was almost completely silent and stoic, and now he's much more outgoing, wacky, funny, and generally likable, despite his heel status. El Desperado even loves him. So if you didn't know, El Desperado recently came over to Dragongate team with his good friend and big brother figure, Dragon Kid, and they faced Shun Skywalker and Ishin. El Desperado didn't know of Ishin at first, but quickly fell in love with how adorable he is. Even after the match and all of Ishin's dirty heel tactics, when asked about him, Desperado basically just said, "Yeah, no, he's still adorable." Turns out me and Despe have similar taste in men. So what is seemingly actually factual on Ishin's official Dragongate profile is his height. Ishin is actually one of the shortest members of the roster at 168 centimeters tall, or 5'6" if you're being nice and rounding up from 5.5. I feel the need to mention this because when I first started watching Dragongate, I had no clue he was this short until I looked up his profile. Next, we have Jason Lee. He's a former 1x Brave, 3x Triangle, and 2x Dragongate champion. He was born on the 18th of October 1992. He's from Hong Kong. He debuted on the 6th of June 2009. He's best known as Jason New, when he debuted for the Hong Kong Pro Wrestling Federation. He made his debut in Japan in 2011, working for Pro Wrestling 01. Changed his last name to Lee in 2013. He was on the 01 roster from 2014 to 2015 and competed in the WWE Cruiserweight Classic in 2016. He appeared in Dragongate for the first time in 2017 and would officially join the roster in 2019. He was a member of Maximum and started with Dragongate in the Generation War before Shun scooped him up to join Masquerade. Jason and Shun had grown quite close to each other prior to Shun's excursion over to Mexico, which is why he chose Jason for Masquerade. In the aftermath of Masquerade's collapse, Dai and Minoura both found factions and Estrella went overseas, which meant Jason was just sort of hanging out. This led to the Jason Lee saga of 2022, which had Z-Brats, Vibes, and High End all fighting over Jason. This would end in Jason joining Vibes. The Jason Lee saga is discussed in much more depth in a video that I will mention during Shun's slide. Jason was happy for a time, but then feelings of discontent grew within Jason, and he would turn on Vibes to stand by Shun's side once more. In particular, Jason has said that he was feeling overlooked and underappreciated during the tail end of his stay in Vibes. I think this was due to Jackie Kamei getting a lot of the spotlight. He wasn't content with Vibes' more laid-back attitude towards wins and losses. Fortunately for Jason, he turned his back on a group of guys who genuinely adored him and cared for him a lot. Fortunately for Jason, he got his bestie back in Minoura, and he got to kick Shun out of Z-Brats. Good for you, Jason. He is everyone's favourite edgelord. He is a former member of Kung Fu Masters, but has since said that he never wanted to be in the dumb comedy unit. He used to make occasional appearances on English commentary with Jay when Ho Ho Lun is wrestling. Unfortunately, with his turn, he stopped appearing on comms. Jason, please consider doing heel commentary. I would laugh so hard if you just sat there and just shat on everyone in English for like one match at least. I'll have linked down below both an article from when Jason was still a face and an interview from when he turned heel. Next we have Kota Minoura. He's a former 1x twin and 4x Dragongate champion. He was born on the 30th of December 1998. He's from Hiroshima in Gifu. He debuted on the 5th of July 2018. He won his first ever match only a month after his debut, which is fast as hell in Dragongate. He was invited to join Masquerade by his senior in Mochizuki Dojo, Shun. Like Jason, he was also siding with the Dragongate generation at the time. Minoura was the most outwardly outraged after Shun's betrayal of Daya and butted heads with Shun the most. After Masquerade disbanded, Naruki Doi took notice of the now factionless Minoura and invited him to be the centerpiece of Doi's new unit, Gold Class. Gold Class was created to draw on the ladies with good looks and abs, both of which Minoura could say that he had in droves, so he accepted. He ended up winning the Dragongate with his new teammates and even got himself a mini-me called Minorita, who I will explain just a bit later. As the Golden Prince, he enjoyed exchanging golden roses with fans, getting opportunities by whining a lot, and being just a little bit stupid, sort of like himbo energy. He won the King of Gate 2023, but struggled to achieve further success, with his slump culminating in Minoura losing a hair versus hair match against Yamato. I think at first things seemed to be okay, but then Minoura buckled under his selfish desires to be the only one in the spotlight and turned on Gold Class. Minoura was supposed to be the centerpiece of Gold Class, but he felt like he was being outshone by his own mini-me, who won a singles title before him, and members who were added to the group after him, like Ben K. He is 3/6 of the Reiwa New Generation leaders. He is a fan of the K-pop girl group Twice, with his bias being Nayeon. Minoura is such a big once, which is the name of Twice's fandom. that he has/had a photo of Neon stuck behind his phone case. Idols like to have certain things to represent them, and Neon's is a rabbit, and Minoura has a rabbit on his gear. I think this is because Minoura noticed what I did, that he also resembles a rabbit in a similar way to how Neon does. I will never forget Minoura's socials pre-heel turn, where he would post thirst traps showing off how big his boobs are. There will be a link in the description if you want to see that. Next up we have Yasushi Kanda. He's a former 2-times Dragongate champion. He's born on the 12th of December 1996, and he's from Mizunami in Gifu. Debuted on the 6th of December 2022. Before joining the Dragongate Dojo, Kanda was a police officer. This was just to appease his father, who was also in law enforcement. However, his dream of being a wrestler persisted, and he decided to follow his dreams. In the first ever match, a 5-minute exhibition against Punch Tominaga, an actual wrestler with years of experience, Kanda tapped Punch out. This is like once in a blue moon shit. I mean, it wasn't the match result, because exhibition matches don't have falls or whatever, but he made a roster member tap as just a trainee, which never happens. Afterwards, it was announced that he would make his official debut as a member of the Dragongate roster, which was a singles with Madoka Kikuta. He got his first win on Christmas Day, but he did have to spend some time away due to an eye condition that he needed surgery to fix. After his return, he requested that he started teaming with Mochizuki Jr., as they were from the same class. The two even appeared alongside Strong Machine J in New Japan, wrestling at the Power Struggle Super Tag League Final in Osaka on November 4th, 2023. However, the literal next day, Kanda would turn heel on Junior and join Z-Brats. Not only was this the second time someone close and debuted Junior had turned heel on him specifically, but this was also the second time in 2 years that someone had turned on him on this exact show. Poor Junior. If it makes you feel better, nobody turned on Junior on that show last year. So, as you would expect from that, him and Ishin are especially close. Kanda is not as goofy as Ishin is, but he likes to loosen up occasionally and have some fun too. Ishin likes to call Kata Yochan, and I think that's adorable. So Kanda has only recently returned from some more time off due to a leg injury. Him and Shun are actually the same age, but debuted like 6 years apart, and it always messes with me. And finally, for Z-Brats, we have Gianni Valletta. He was born on the 8th of August 1989, and he's from Zuri in Malta. He debuted on the 22nd of October 2011. He made his debut in England, basically started the pro wrestling scene in Malta. Tajiri, yes, you're thinking of the right one, saw him and went, I like the look of that, so invited him to work for All Japan, which he did from 2018 to 2020. This explains how Z-Brats came across him, as Kai met him during this time. Although there is also photographic evidence that Gianni and Shun met each other years and years ago, when Shun was still just a rookie. However, I've only heard him and Kai being the reason why he's in Dragongate now, canonically. No doubt Gianni is a large man, being 192 centimeters tall, 6'3", but in Dragongate he is an actual giant because the roster is smaller on average. None of us know Maltese, so his promos in a language are a mystery, but he seems to be on topic. I say he's on topic because I've heard him say recognizable words before, like Louis Monte and Dragongate. So I don't think he's just out there talking about how good his favorite sports team is doing, or what his favorite meal to eat in Japan is. This is important to note because he is supposed to be like a madman, but he also seems to be like, you can actually understand what he's saying if you knew Maltese, which is interesting, as we've had other madmen in Dragongate who just said pure gibberish, like Cybercom. So he does also seem to know English, but we haven't heard it as much. His theme song is just the Z-Brats theme, but they added a siren to it. This is because he likes to run through the crowd and cause chaos. Gianni is so chaotic, in fact, that the ring announcer will warn the fans beforehand to be ready to blast off, just in case he bursts into your section Kool-Aid Man style. He enjoys taking people, as in his opponents, or just random trainees, and hanging them from the ring using his chain, better known as attempted murder. He has beef with every trainee, throwing them around at every point of his entrance, match, post-match, his entire appearance. Gianni does actually seem to have a soft spot for the Z-Brats, though. But just because he appears to be friendly with them doesn't mean that he won't use them as human weapons. I also want to mention that very recently at the last Korakuen show, they started the show with all the members of Z-Brats coming out, except for Gianni, because he is in the country at the moment. And Kikuta said, "In this ring are all the members of Z-Brats." And some people were like, "Oh, does that mean that Gianni isn't in Z-Brats anymore?" And I'm not too sure, because it's sort of a bit of a weird case for him, because he literally wasn't in the country. He's back, doing his own thing in Malta and stuff. So I'm not going to say that he isn't a member of Z-Brats yet, until I know for sure that Kikuta was talking about Gianni as well when he said that, and not just about Shun and Homare. Wait a minute, I thought Shun Skywalker was in Z-Brats. Yeah, about that. So you may or may not know by now, something went down at Kobe World 2025. After Shun defeated Yamato to regain the Dreamgate, Kikuta attacked Shun, challenged him for the Dreamgate, kicking both Shun and his protege Homare out of Z-Brats, with the rest of Brats happily letting this happen. This hasn't led to a face turn for either Shun or Homare. They are both basically the exact same. Considered putting them in the unaffiliated section, but I decided that I could get their own little section right here for two reasons. One, it's my presentation and I make the rules, and two, I don't think Shun and Homare are going to be teaming with Ultimo Dragon and Donfuji anytime too soon. That could just be me though. First up, we have Shun Skywalker. He's a former 2x Dream, 1x Twin, and 3x Dragongate champion. He was born on 30th of May, 1996. He's from Toki in Gifu. He debuted on the 22nd of April, 2016. His father is a big wrestling fan, and he was named after the legend Hayabusa. A quick Japanese lesson here for anyone curious. Shun's name, his real shoot name, is Shun. It is spelt with the same kanji as seen in the word for falcon, especially peregrine falcon, which is Hayabusa. But Hayabusa is that kanji's kunyomi, which is how it is said in Japanese, and Shun is one of its onyomi, which is how it is read based off the historical Chinese pronunciation of that character. So they share the same character, but not reading. No, Shun's parents didn't just really like birds. They named him after a wrestler. This is confirmed. I'm not making speculation or whatever. He had dreamt of being a masked wrestler ever since he was a child. He wrestled the first few months of his career unmasked under his real name, Shun Watanabe, before making his first appearance under a mask as Shun Skywalker in November of 2016. At first, he was sort of like a superhero in training, a sidekick. A bit odd, but in an undoubtedly charming way. So Shun's sidekick era, as we're going to call it, included him wearing these bright coloured full bodysuits, sort of like the one he's wearing in this render, but picture it green, like green in all capitals. He would proclaim that he could beat his opponents in only 5 minutes. He would do a bird pose, and he would yell, "Skywalk," to frighten his opponents. You can see where the odd comment comes from, but he was still a good kid. So he matured under the mentorship of Masaki Mochizuki, but would abandon his first allies in Mochizuki and his group, Mochizuki Dojo, to go on an excursion to Mexico. Under Mochizuki, he began to act more normal. He also stopped wearing the bodysuits and switched to tights. He left Mochizuki Dojo after he won, not lost, a loser leaves unit steel cage match, but the other members of Mochizuki Dojo did truly try their best to keep him around with them, but he was done with them, which in 2025 feels like foreshadowing to his future behaviour. So he would return to Dragongate a changed man, having fully grown up into the superhero he was always meant to be, swiftly winning the Dreamgate title from Eita, being the youngest at the time to do so. He returned to Dragongate in a way that I can only describe as Batman-like. the lights went down on Ada and his heel faction RED, celebrating his latest successful title defense in the ring, and just as the spotlight came back on in the entrance rampway, revealing the silhouette of Shun. He went on to beat up all the members of RED like they were a Batman's villains' thugs, before challenging Ada himself. He would do this appearing act at least one other time, doing it right into the ring at Korakuen Hall. It is very Batman-coded to me. He had kept the tights for the most part, and just added a bit more tassel. He also stood for a lot of superhero-y qualities, the main one being justice. He wanted to bring light back to Dragongate after the evil RED had taken over. Shun is no longer the youngest Dreamgate champion, but when he did win it, he was 24. So amongst the Generation War, he formed his own unit separate to it, this being Masquerade. Masquerade consisted of the previously mentioned Minoura and Jason, Shun, Dragon Dyer, and La Estrella. However, Things trademark happened and Shun ended up as the biggest nutcase of the promotion and the now former leader of Dragongate's heel faction. By Things trademark, I do mean Shun sacrificing Dyer's mask to save his own in a Mascara contra Mascara match in late 2021. The rest of Masquerade growing to despise Shun losing his marbles, and eventually completely snapping, turning on Masquerade and joining RED. He is 4/6 of the Reiwa New Generation leaders. Japanese fans jokingly refer to Shun as a cult leader, which is quite an accurate description of his heel persona, if you want an idea of what he's like. If you don't know what this means, it means that he's manipulative, possessive, toxic, hypocritical, eccentric, and loud. It may have seemed like he was a normal dude during his time as the leader of Masquerade, but it is hard to ignore how Masquerade wore Venetian masks, like to disguise their true selves, at a masquerade ball, and performed an unnaturally perfectly synchronous group entrance. This all being solely Shun's creative decisions, with the others having seemingly no input. I actually started working on this during Pride Month, so it only makes sense that I make some time to discuss Shun's homoerotic tendencies. I want to make it clear here that I wouldn't be mentioning this if it wasn't so significant to his character, and that I am talking about Shun the character, not the real human behind the role. So don't go assuming anything about anyone, and don't go confronting people or making them uncomfortable, please and thank you. I have to, of course, start with Shun's relationship with Jason Lee, which can be read as an abusive romantic relationship. This is merely a reading and not explicitly canon. It has been hinted towards by Dragongate talent and staff as well as external sources. Examples of this hinting includes KZ on commentary comparing Shun's behaviour towards Jason to an ex-boyfriend showing up at their ex-girlfriend's place of work just to check up on them. Jay straight up saying on commentary, ladies, don't date a man like Shun Skywalker. Jay on English commentary also making similar comparisons in an article from Yahoo News in Japan reading, Jason Lee breaks free from his deranged ex-boyfriend showing natural vibes. Turning to Shun himself, the man regularly used romantic language when talking about Jason and would pair photos of Jason with love songs on Instagram. Back before Jason turned heel, he would talk about how even though Jason had broke his heart, he only loves him more and knows Jason will come back to him eventually. Jason is not the only man he's made these sorts of advances towards, his most notable other target being Jackie Kamei. At a contract signing once, Shun said that he wanted to run away with Jason and Kamei and get married to them. He has a type of man he likes to go after. Cute face, deep thinker when it comes to wrestling. Pleasant, but also capable of being malicious. This could be seen with his targeting of Yuki Ueno of DDT at All Together. Tangentially related to the whole gay thing, but Shun likes to put his hands in certain opponents' mouths, and has since claimed that he is able to tell how people feel by doing this. I have the interview where he mentioned that linked in the description. Also in the description will be the previously mentioned video that got me to Dragongate, which is about Shun Skywalker and Masquerade, and is from the one and only Guts Dozer. I'm not only recommending it because it literally got me into Dragongate and is a fantastic video, because it can help you better understand a lot of what I wrote about here. And finally, Shun canonically likes to get spat on. Anyway. And then we have Homare. He is a former one-time Dragongate champion. He was born on the 30th of August 2004, and he's from Shizuoka City in Shizuoka. He debuted on the 5th of September 2024. He played a variety of sports growing up, from gymnastics to water polo to basketball and handball. He wanted to be a pro wrestler ever since he was a child. He made his debut last year against Masaki Mochizuki under his real full name, Homare Kata. Of course he lost, but the potential was clear, which led to not one but two factions coming out to invite him into their ranks. Unfortunately for both Big Hug and Gold Class, he turned them down and confessed that he was only interested in being under his idol, Shun Skywalker. Shun was thrilled by this and hauled ass on out there to get this kid under his wing. Ever since then, Homare has had quite the rookie year. Champion, has wrestled at Naomichi Marufuji and Takashi Segura, won the Raid Powerhouse 325 at the Shun, got to the finals of the tournament to decide the next Dragongate champion, and got kicked out of his first faction. He is the youngest member of the Dragongate roster. I will miss Homare being the baby brother of Z-Brats. I will never forget the time that Homare called Kai Dad while tipsy on the Okinawa fan tour. He has Wheeler Yuta levels of hair. If Homare and Wheeler met, they would actually just run into each other by accident. They wouldn't actually meet. Next we have D-Courage. Next up we have Dragon Dyer. He's a former 2x Brave, 3x Twin, and 2x Dragongate champion. He was born on the 31st of October 1998, and he's from Suzaka in Nagano. He debuted on the 6th of November 2018. He came into Dragongate as the successor to Dragon Kid, who in turn was the successor to the promotion's founder, Ultimo Dragon. This means he started out as a masterman. Just like Dragon Kid, he got into a heated rivalry with an evil Dark Dragon counterpart. Dragon Kid had Canes, and Dragon Dyer had Dyer Inferno. This rivalry began while Dyer was still in the Dragongate Generation faction, continued when Shun invited Dyer to join Masquerade. This rivalry would spell the end for both Dyer's existences as master men. Dragon Dyer, through Shun's sacrifice of him, Dyer Inferno would follow suit soon after, losing its reason to exist. Inferno would reveal itself to be Dyer's close friend, tag partner, and friendly rival, Yuki Yoshioka. The duo would reconcile and form D-Courage. He is now a skater boy who is incredibly popular, especially amongst younger audiences. Suffered another betrayal recently, this time Kikuta. Does sometimes make his entrance with the old mask on, but will not keep it on for the duration of matches. And then of course we have Yuki Yoshioka. He's a former 1x Dream and 2x Dragongate champion. He was born on the 14th of September 1994. He's from Ogaki in Gifu, debuted on the 29th of October 2016. He has a background in judo and baseball. He's also in Mochizuki Dojo and went on an excursion to Mexico alongside Shun, where his activity became increasingly hard to track. Despite being friends with Dyer, Yoshioka was very jealous of him. This jealousy would only consume Yoshioka whole, leaving only Dyer Inferno in its wake. Inferno would return to Dragongate with only one goal in mind: to ruin Dyer by unmasking him. To do this, he joined up with RED, so they could focus on Dyer's friends while he feeds all his attention into trying to destroy Dyer. I like to refer to Inferno as the pet of RED, as he was very animalistic in his behaviours, and the RED members did treat him a bit like a dog. Commentary would use it's regularly when talking about Inferno. So Shun refused to believe that Yoshioka and Inferno were the same person, because Yoshioka had told him that he was still in Mexico. Dyer had managed to capture a look at Inferno's face when he unmasked him, so he knew who he saw. He attempted to expose Inferno's identity, And to some extent, people had sort of guessed, oh, I think it might be Yoshioka, but Shun refused to let Daya, say the whole name, and interrupted him. This is because of the respect that most men are meant to have about each other when it comes to keeping their identities a mystery. This was despite the fact that Inferno had been an absolute menace to Daya and unmasked him multiple times. As you can see, Face Shun was moral to a fault. Of course, then the Mascara contra Mascara match happened. The duo would vanish but later return, Daya winning the Dragongate off SB Kento, and Yoshioka showing up to help Daya secure that victory, confirming that he had left RED and was siding now with Daya. So they formed D-Courage. So the D in D-Courage is, of course, Daya, but the courage in D-Courage is actually Yoshioka, as Yuki means courage in Japanese. So he lost at Dead or Alive 2025 in the Steel Cage Survival main when Kikuta turned on them, which resulted in him being bolded. So the reason why Kikuta wanted Yoshioka out of the group, as I mentioned during his profile, was that he was losing a lot, and that was because Yoshioka had just returned from a lengthy stint out due to an eye injury. So he was really struggling to sort of get his oomph back, I guess you could say. And Kikuta was, sick of his shit, basically, and was like, just kick him out. However, things have very recently turned around for Yoshioka. At Kobe World 2025, he teamed with Daya to face Dragon Kid and New Japan's Hiroshi Tanahashi. So Tana and Yoshioka share the same hometown, Agaki, high school they attended, and baseball team they were in. So it meant a lot for Yoshioka to face him. And they put this match together in hopes of sort of getting Yoshioka's mojo back. So Yoshioka didn't win the match, but Tana bestowed upon Yoshioka the permission to call his frog splash finisher the high fly flow, and told Yoshioka to become the ace of Dragongate. And since then, we've had a show in Korakuen, and Yoshioka hit the high fly flow for the first time, and he got the win. And him and Daya will be teaming to face the Twin Gate champions, Minnow Lee, at Dangerous Gate 2025. So despite his more stoic appearance, Yoshioka can be quite goofy. He cares for Daya and Ryo Tanaka a lot. He is 5/6 of the Reiwa New Generation leaders. Finally, we have Ryo Tanaka, who's born on the 16th of January 1999. He's from Amagasaki in Hyogo. He debuted on the 28th of May 2023. He has a background in karate, but doesn't utilize it in his style of wrestling. He was the only debutant in 2023, which is rare in Dragongate. Usually they debut at least 2 a year, but the rest of the debutants that were around Tanaka did not debut. He had a debut against Yamato, of all people, but showed undeniable potential. Dragongate noticed his potential as well, as they gave him a Bravegate title match only 6 months after his debut. D-Courage would take a shine to him and take him under their wing. Through this, Ryo developed in leaps and strides, especially when Yoshioka was out and he had to step out. Proved himself to be a very capable member of the roster, who may not always win the big match, but will 100% show out. I will never forget how happy the other members of D-Courage were when Ryo got his first win, and how Daya referred to him as our Ryo. He was pretty instrumental to the storyline leading up to Dead or Alive 2025, convincing D-Courage to stop their bickering, and at the actual show he helped his teammates, even though he wasn't in the cage match itself. Okay, yeah, Kikuta still turned on them, but Ryo did his best. His potential and capability was rewarded when he beat UT for the Bravegate at Kobe Pro Wrestling Festival 2025. He is a big Kamen Rider nerd, so much so that his gear is inspired by it. Now we have the Veterans Faction Paradox. First up is Yamato. He's a former 6 times Dream, 1 times Brave, 6 times Triangle Gate, and 10 times Twin Gate champion. He was born on the 10th of September 1981. He's from Ichinoseki in Oware. Debuted on the 29th of July 2006. His background in martial arts, having previously competed in pancrase, and he practices judo in his spare time these days. He was the 5th person to graduate from the Dragongate Dojo. He was recruited into Final M2K right after his debut, inheriting the then retired Yasushi Kanda's character and most of his moveset. But he would choose to depart from Final M2K to forge his own path. He would end up spending some time in the USA with fellow early graduate of the Dragongate Dojo Shingo Takagi before returning alongside Shingo to join New Hazard. This would be when he changed his name from Yamato Onodera to just Yamato. He has been in roughly 300 units, 14 according to Cage Match. Side Yamato, there are 2 Yamatos, Good Yamato and Wicked Yamato. He is Good Yamato most of the time nowadays, but you will know if Wicked Yamato has been summoned if he has black smudged under his eyes. Despite most of the time Yamato being Good Yamato these days, he is not a pure babyface. He's not always rule-bearing and he can be quite cruel, but he still has a moral compass, cares for his faction mates, and is only rough towards his juniors to try to spur on their improvement. Wicked Yamato has come out most recently due to the provocation of Z-Brats members, forcing him to stoop to their level to remind them of who he can be. Known for dramatically patting his hair to reveal his handsome face and admiring his good looks in a hand mirror he brings with him to the ring. He is also known for standing with his Yamato spirit. Standing with his Yamato spirit is from his iconic theme song, which begins with, "I'm standing here with my Yamato spirit," and you will hear it referenced by fans. He is currently one half of Riku Dragon Pro Wrestling Server Tag Team Championships team alongside Gurukun Mask. So he wrestled Keno at Pro Wrestling Noah's Wrestle Magic 2024, participated in Takagi Shingo's 20th Wrestle Anniversary show for New Japan in the main event. He was also at the All Together show in May of 2024 with his brother, Hiromu Takahashi. They're not actually brothers, but they say that they're brothers, and Hiromu insists that Yamato is his younger brother, despite the fact that Yamato is older than Hiromu in both age and years he's been wrestling. So I don't know how that happened. I do want to mention that sometimes Yamato is just referred to as the Almighty, sort of, I guess, a shortened way of saying his actual nickname. Next we have Susumu Yokosuka. He's a former 2x Dream, 1x Brave, 8x Twin, 12x Dragongate champion. He was born on the 18th of February 1978. He's from Yokosuka, Kanagawa. He's called Susumu Yokosuka because he's from Yokosuka. He debuted on the 22nd of November 1998. He is our first Torimon generation guy so far. He spent a brief time in the Michinoku Pro Dojo before he travelled over to Mexico to try out for the Torimon gym. He is part of the first Torimon class. Debuting in Mexico, he linked up with fellow Torimon graduate Yasushi Kanda and had early success with him, winning the IWRG Intercontinental Tag Team Championships together. Susumu and Kanda were menaces, causing absolute mayhem in their matches, which usually led to a double countout to disappoint the fans and ruin the shows. However, they weren't left alone in their heel antics for too long, as Masaki Mochizuki showed up only a few months later. Susumu ended up having to change his name to Susumu Mochizuki due to losing a match against Masaki, but the two Mochizukis would link up with Kanda to form M2K. M2K is called that as there were 2 M's, Masaki and Susumu, and 1 K, Kanda. But just as well as Susumu could get crowds riled up and against him, could also get them cheering for him, being equally as impactful as both a heel and a face. So M2K is one of the most iconic units in Torimon and Dragongate, that having a few different iterations. The most recent was M3K, which disbanded in 2024. I still miss them. And on the other hand, another iconic unit that he was involved with was Jimmy's, which he co-founded. So the quick story of Jimmy's. So Susumu and Kagetora, who we will meet in a few slides' time, lost a match where their names were on the line. If they lost, they had to change their names to Jimmy Susumu and Jimmy Kagetora. Now, Jimmy is of course the English name that we know. It does have more meaning than that because Jimmy, Jimi, in Japanese means simple or plain. So Susumu and Kagetora were now losers, whose name had to be changed to what amounts to simple Susumu and plain Kagetora, which isn't great for a wrestler. But Susumu and Kagetora took it in stride and turned it into a good thing, to the point where other people would join the unit and change their names to include Jimmy in there somewhere. So he is a cat dad and seamster. He has his own pet cats, but he does dote on the Dojo cat quite a bit. The Dragongate Dojo has a ginger cat that either lives with them or lives around them and is a stray, that they feed and look after and make sure it has, places to sleep, etc. And the boys love that cat a lot. And Susumu posts a lot about it, and so does Strong Machine J as well. Susumu makes face masks and scrunchies to sell at shows and repairs damaged gear. He is one of the best follows on Twitter/Instagram. Both of those I will have linked in the description because he is one of, the best people to follow on there. You'll see cat content, you'll see his scrunchies and his face masks. You'll see like backstage stuff and funny photos. It's just a really good follow if you're into Dragongate. So Susumu's favourite bit is waiting too long to hit the Yokosuka cutter, which is his finisher, and getting backdropped because he was too busy trying to get the crowd fired up. Everyone's favourite Susumu fact is that since his debut in '98, Susumu has wrestled at least one match a month. He has not missed a single month in almost 27 years. He is built different. Next up we have Dragon Kid. He's a former 4x Brave, 4x Twin, and 9x Dragongate champion. He was born on the 2nd of February 1976, and he's from Tokai in Aichi. Debuted on the 14th of November 1997. For convenience, I refer to Dragon Kid as DK for the remainder of this presentation. No, I am not referring to Donkey Kong, the Nintendo character. I'm referring to Dragon Kid. He is Ultimo Dragon's successor and Dai's predecessor. Instead of saying all these long words, I just like to say that Ultimo Dragon is DK's dad, and DK is Dai's dad. So Ultimo is Dai's granddad. Due to the whole being successor to the promotion's founder thing, as well as his natural face ability, he's a really good underdog. He's rarely ever been a heel. As I mentioned in Dai's slide, DK had his own Dai Inferno, being Darkness Dragon, later known as K-Ness. They may have been rivals, but by the end of K-Ness's career, the two were on good terms. They won the Twin Gate titles twice together as DK-Ness. However, the team that I think a lot of people first think of when thinking of K-Ness tag teams is actually Kineska, which is the team of K-Ness and Susumu. He is one half of the team No Hug with Naruki Doi. This team came about because Dragon Kid was looking for someone to team with for Radio Powerhouse 2024. Yamada refusing because they had teamed together far too much recently. DK got turned down a few more times before landing on Doi. He also accepted and was more so forced to team with DK by GM Sairo. No Hug's name kept coming about because DK was wanting to hug Doi, and Doi kept baiting for the hug and then throwing DK off him. DK is very outgoing, touchy, and enthusiastic, to the point of irritation when it comes to Doi. In short, No Hug is sort of like the El Desperado and Master Watto of Dragongate. Actually, now that I think about it, DK is just older Master Watto, because DK also loves cats. He actually rescues cats and will provide extra care for ones with disabilities. If you want to see the cute kitties that DK looks after, he posts about them on his Twitter and Instagram, which I will also have linked in the description. Speaking of Despe, DK is Despe's Wrestle Big Brother. He is also Stardom's Starlight Kid's Wrestle Big Brother. He may or may not have access to the Fountain of Youth. I say this because this man turned 49 this year. Please keep this in mind when he does his best flag impression on the ring post. Next up, we have the other half of No Hug, Naruki Doi. He's a former 2x Dream, 2x Brave, 8x Twin, and 16 times Triangle Gate champion. He was born on the 14th of October, 1980, and he's from Ikoma in Nara. He debuted on the 13th of May, 2000. He was originally supposed to debut in Mexico, but would debut in Japan instead due to injuries halting his training progress. He was first known as Second Doi and had a baseball gimmick. One of his family members was a player for the Yomiuri Giants, which is where the baseball gimmick came from. He founded Gold Class, which is now Love and Peace. However, when Doi went freelance, he departed from Gold Class. He did return to them to tag occasionally, mainly by invitation of Minoura and Minorita, but when he joined Paradox, that stopped. He worked in both TNA and ROH in the past, even becoming a ROH World Tag Team Champion alongside Shingo Takagi. He is one half of two of the most iconic Dragon Gate tag teams of all time, being Yamadoi, Yamato and Doi Yoshi, also known as Speed Muscle, which is Masato Yoshino and Doi. Masato Yoshino is a very notable name in Dragon Gate. He's since retired and now works for GLEAT. He was possibly the fastest man in the wrestling industry at one point, and one of Dragon Gate's top guys throughout the 2000s and into the 2010s, before injuries began to pull him up and he would have to retire. Doi did, however, turn on Yoshino at least like 700 times. Love is not real. He is undoubtedly the biggest tsundere to ever tsundere. Despair, get on his level. As mentioned, he will not hug Dragon Kid. He does secretly care a lot for him. I know he cares for DK because his return from a knee injury involved Doi running into the ring to stop Z-Brats from beating up a then injured Dragon Kid. Love is real again. Don't be surprised if you go back and watch matches and Doi has like silver hair, not like grey, like straight up silver hair for them. It was a thing that he used to do for like really important like title matches. As mentioned, he is freelance and mainly works for All Japan outside of Dragon Gate. So in All Japan, Doi is affiliated with the Sato brothers, but you may have also seen Doi in DDT over the past few years. In both promotions, he has held championships. So in DDT, he's held the Universal once, the KOD 6-man once, and the Iron Man twice. And in All Japan, he has held the World Junior title twice. Next, we have BB Hulk. Yes, his name is pronounced BB. He's a former 1x Dream, 9x Twin, and 10x Triangle Gate champion. He was born on the 15th of July, 1980. He's from Sapporo in Hokkaido. He debuted on the 5th of March 2005. He was the second man to debut out of the Dragon Gate Dojo. He was a Magnum Tokyo protege, clearly seen with his entrance dance and good looks. Apparently, Hulk initially actually wanted to be a masked man, but Magnum took one look at his face and knew that couldn't be done. He was right. Sorry, Hulk, you're too pretty. He debuted in his hometown against Susumu. It always comes back to Susumu. His nickname refers to his heel alter ego, Darkside Hulk, who shows up looking like he's just come out of the early 2000s and tries to kill people. He's very edgy. We love him though. Darkside Hulk and Wicked Yamato have actually become besties thanks to Paradox. They had never interacted before Paradox, but now they've interacted a couple of times and actually teamed together. And they seem to quite like each other. Hulk is the one who actually came up with the Z-Brats name as a member of the group before he pieced out on them to join Gold Class. He is the OG handsome wrestler after all. Fortunately, he was forcibly kicked out of Gold Class due to a match stip in just like the most heartbreaking way. It was a tough watch, trust me. The first man to debut out of the Dragongate Dojo was Shingo Takagi, with the two having a very intense rivalry over the years. They still have beef to this day, but it isn't exactly as vitriolic as it used to be. Shingo and Hulk are definitely wrestling soulmates and have seemingly hated each other, obsessed over each other, since they were trainees. Nowadays, he's slowed down due to injury, but don't let that fool you. Despite his body being probably the most broken out of all the Paradox members, I'm so sorry, Hulk. he is still a joy to watch and will happily take horrible bumps for the bit. He worries me sometimes. I do want to note here, you may notice the 1 times Dreamgate reign and be like, oh, that's not many, given how important he seems to Dragongate. That one Dreamgate reign lasted for 329 days. So, I mean, it wasn't really 1 reign, it was like 3. And finally, we have Kagetora. He's a former 2 times Brave, 3 times Twin, and 3 times Dragongate champion. He was born on the 21st of April, 1982, and he's from Kyoto in Tokyo. He debuted on the 11th of May, 2002. He began his career as Suasita, a mini-me of Suwa. He left Dragongate back in 2004 when it made the change from Torimon to Dragongate. Wrestled in Michinoku Pro, Dragon Door / El Dorado Wrestling, so when he started using the name Kagetora. He returned to Dragongate in 2008, declaring war on the promotion that he had abandoned. Canis didn't see it that way, saying that Dragongate abandoned Kagetora, not the other way around. Basically saying, no, you sucked, we didn't want you around, which is the fucking wild thing to say. Had a bit of a rocky start when it came to units, having flip-flopped from Real Hazard to Warriors, back to Real Hazard, and then finally settling in at Kamikaze. So if you're wondering what happened here, he ended up in Real Hazard given his fuck Dragongate attitude, then ended up turning face and joining Warriors. Due to a variety of reasons, he would distance himself from them and just completely go missing before rejoining Real Hazard, which he quickly regretted. While regretting his life decisions, he turned to Akira Tozawa for advice. Note, Tozawa was not in Real Hazard, so when Kagetora was kicked out of Real Hazard, Tozawa came to his aid and had Kagetora join his unit, Kamikaze. He is the other co-founder of Jimmy's, as Jimmy Kagetora, and he is actually the reason why Hulk is in Paradox now. Kagetora was the one to extend the olive branch to Hulk, inviting him into Paradox. The rest of Paradox were more than cool with this, but Kagetora was sort of the main driving force behind it. Took them a moment. Hulk was very unsure about it. He was quite, shaken after what had happened at the end of Gold Class, so I think he was, a little bit unsure if he should, put himself back in a faction again. But eventually he did agree. To tie in with the whole samurai thing, his nickname is the Lonely Samurai. He wears a menpo, which is samurai facial armor, to the ring. No, he does not have a sword. For good reason, I would not trust more than half of the roster with a sword. He's apparently the teacher of chops in Dragongate, so he is the reason why everyone in this promotion chops so damn hard. And next we have Love and Peace, which used to be Gold Class. First up we have Benkei. He's a former 2 times Dream, 2 times Twin, and 3 times Dragongate champion. He was born on the 19th of October, 1991, and he's from Sakura in Shiba. He debuted on the 22nd of April, 2016. I will refer to him as Ben throughout this, but I also like to call him Benjamin Kenjamin because it makes me laugh. He debuted the exact same day as Shun. His real name is Fuda Nakamura, which he performed under until November of 2016. The name Benkei is a reference to the warrior monk Sado Mishishibo Benkei, better known as just Benkei. So Benkei is known to be a man with both great strength and loyalty. Ben definitely shares these attributes as well, but he's also a huge goof. I don't know if Benkei, the warrior monk, was a huge goof as well. So he won his first title, the Dragongate, in March 2017 and joined Maximum that same year. Maximum, he started teaming with Shimizu, with the duo winning the Twin Gate together. They'd both turn on Maximum and join the heel faction Anataz in September. This team was known as Big Ben, and they would win the Twin Gates another time before Benkei was kicked out of the group. Ben would go on to win the King of Gate 2019 and defeat Pac for the Dreamgate Championship. He was in high end with Yamato and DK, but due to tensions between Ben and Yamato, he would leave them mid-match to join Gold Class. This is legitimately one of the funniest things I have ever witnessed. No joke, the dude fucked off mid-match between Gold Class and High End then returned in new gold class gear to help them get the win. It was so funny. He is the final member of the Reiwa New Generation leaders. He used to barely speak at all, but now we can't shut him up. And he has had roughly 700 different looks throughout his career. I like to jokingly refer to him as a shapeshifter because of how often he will change looks throughout his career. He's currently in a mullet bend era. He's had a bunch of different black short hairstyles recently, with a few notable exceptions. That time he was a blonde boy band member, and that one time he went bald. Also, something that has fluctuated wildly with him has been his physique. You would be surprised if you go back and look at stuff from the Jason Lee saga, because he was considerably bigger back then than he is now. He seems to have sort of fell into a sweet spot when it comes to his physique. He seems to be pretty comfortable staying at his current weight. It seems to be the easiest for him to keep. Next up we have Hyo. He's a former 2x Brave, 1x Twin, and 3x Dragongate champion. He was born on the 4th of January 1987. He's from Toyohashi in Aichi. Debuted on the 14th of August 2016. His real name is Hyo Watanabe, with Hyo meaning leopard in Japanese. Hopefully this explains the whole capital pose, tail, fur, leopard print, and running around on all fours. He calls his fans Mehyo, which Mehyo means leopardess, which should explain his nickname as well. I do want to mention that Hyo has called his male fans Mehyos as well, implying that the term is actually gender neutral. Hyo just so happens to have a majority female following. He's the same dojo class as Ben, Shun, and Yoshioka. Was also in Mochizuki Dojo with Shun and Yoshioka. He returned on Mochizuki Dojo in 2019 and joined RED, changing his name to Hyo with its romanized spelling. There is nothing more evil in the world than romanizing your spelling. Just ask Konosuke Takeshita. He'd find success in a tag team with SB Kento and became known as the brain of RED. He would tout his smarts by proclaiming that his brain was worth 100 points and his opponent's brains were worth 0 points. There was also a dance to go along with this, of course. He short-term proved, long-term disproved this mantle by coaxing a mentally unstable Shun into RED and kicking both leader Eita and Kaito Ishida out. At first this was indeed Big Brain and a real swerve, but inviting Shun into RED, now Z-Brats, was low-key one of the worst things Hyo could have done. It was Hyo's undoing, alongside basically every other ex-member of Z-Brats. So they would rebrand Z-Brats, and Hyo would win the Dragongate for the first time, even managing to have surprise success in the King of Gate 2023. However, he fell short and would begin to miscommunicate with Z-Brats. In the end, Hyo turned on them to save Louis Mante. The duo would go on to form the faction Big Hug. They ended up adding Dragon Kame after the Kame saga of 2024, but unfortunately they were forced to disband. He has since found his home in love and peace alongside Kame once more. He's a friend of Myeonmon. Myeonmon is the snow leopard plushie that you can see in this render, and he's easily distracted by people shouting his name. So during a match, if you shout "Go" at him, he will have to respond with a pose in your direction, distracting him from the match. This has actually been used as a technique by his opponents to get the jump on him. Next up we have Frida. He's a former 1x Brave and 2x Dragongate champion. He was born on the 14th of August 1997. He's from Koshu in Yamanashi. He debuted on the 24th of October 2021. His real name is Takumi Hayakawa, and he is the shortest Dragongate wrestler at 156 centimeters tall, or 5'1". He prepared to enter the Dragongate Dojo by getting into martial arts. So even though Dragongate is very welcoming to shorter wrestlers, he knew that he would be disadvantaged in every match due to his inferior size. Now most of the roster is just a little bit scared of him because he can beat them up. So he debuted actually earlier than expected due to injuries that were suffered by actual roster talent. He started out wrestling under his street name as just himself. But then one day, Doi revealed that he had a present for Minoura, a sign-on bonus for Minoura agreeing to be in gold class. He brought out the gift, which was revealed to be Hayakawa, renamed to Minorita, dressed exactly like Minoura. So as mentioned when talking about Hagatora and the such, Toramon also practiced giving certain stars of the promotion smaller versions of themselves, like Suwa and Suicida. And this is once more a tradition borrowed from Lucha Libre. Doi decided to bring it back with Minoura and the man now known as Minorita. Funnily enough, the mini-me is older than the macro-me, big me, regular size version. What's the opposite word for mini-me? So Doi implored Minoura to use Minorita however he saw fit. At first, Minorita was basically just like an extension of Minoura. He'd exclusively interfere on Minoura's behalf and goad Minoura's opponents into chasing him around and away from the ring, helping Minoura get wins in underhanded ways. However, Minorita would gradually gain more and more independence from Minoura. This peaked when Minorita won the Bravegate title, winning a singles title in Dragongate before Minoura. When he won the Bravegate, he was actually gifted a mini version of the title by GM Ryosato, so he'd be able to run around without the belt weighing him down. Same thing happened when he actually won the Triangle Gate, but unfortunately he had to vacate that soon after they won it due to a knee injury. After returning in mid-2024 from that knee injury, he was targeted by Shun, who wanted Minorita to become a mini Shun. This did not happen, but this did lead to Minoura turning on gold class and Minorita changing his name to Rita. So prior to Minoura's heel turn, a lot of people actually like to call Minorita Rita as a nickname, R-I-T-A, which is where his current name comes from. Minoura's turn broke Rita's heart, as although he had become his own man, he was still Minorita and still cared a lot for Minoura. Did not intend to cause Minoura to turn towards evil, just wanted everyone to try their best and do, as much hard work as they could do. That included both himself and Minoura. Next up, we have Jackie Kame. He is a former one-times twin and two-times Dragongate champion. He was born on the 11th of November, 1999. He's from Totori in Totori. He debuted on the 22nd of December, 2019. His real name is Taketo Kame, which is what he started out his career wrestling under. The kanji for Kame is that, with Kame, K-A-M-E, meaning turtle/tortoise. Abandoned by both SBK and Kikuta, he joined Natural Vibes after passing the same public audition UT did. At first his name was Funky Jackie Kame, but it did change to Jackie Funky Kame. He ended up in the first iteration of Kung Fu Masters because of his resemblance to Jackie Chan. But this resemblance is also how he ended up with the name Jackie. He had success in Vibes teaming with Jason in particular. That all ended when Jason turned on Kame to join Brats. This led to the Kame saga of 2024, where Vibes, Big Hug, and Z-Brats were all fighting over Kame, to much harassment from Shun, and Wandikyo being shaved bald. Kame would end up in Big Hug. As mentioned during Shun's profile, Kame is Shun's favourite person to dote on, to the point where the line between pro wrestling and gay porn gets somehow even more blurrier than it already was. Unfortunately, Big Hug were forced to disband thanks to Z-Brats, but luckily he has since found a place in Love and Peace. He is one of the shorter members of the roster at 163 centimeters tall, or roughly 5'4". So a lot of the roster and fans alike like to call him Kame-chan. He is known to flash a finger gun with a loud pow to startle his opponents. Sometimes the pow does get turned on him though. Kame is quite introverted and quiet, but feels his feelings very strongly. And if you listen to wrestler commentary when English commentary isn't available, you may hear a lot of giggling, and that is usually Kame. Sometimes I do worry he giggles more than he actually breathes. Finally, we have Mochizuki Jr. He's a former one-time Dragongate champion. He was born on the 20th of April 2002. Yes, his birthday is on 4/20. He's from Satagaya in Tokyo, and he debuted on the 3rd of June 2022. He is the son of Masaki Mochizuki. So Masaki Mochizuki's nickname is the King of Kicking Souls. So Mochizuki Jr.'s nickname is written as Junior King of Kicking Souls. So I took a few liberties and I changed it to Prince of Kicking Souls because it makes a little bit more sense for us international viewers. He followed in his father's footsteps by becoming a skilled karateka, but also played volleyball. As a trainee, he went under the pseudonym Masaharu Eto, so no fans knew that he was Mochi's son. This was until he would save Mochi from a chair attack. With Mochi apparently being so thankful for this act, he let this rando trainee into M2K for the Toramon reunion show. This is what Mochi claimed, but we all now know the truth of the matter. At the time, it was quite surprising, but nobody came to the son conclusion, as, Eto was there to replace the retired Keynes. So, just sort of assumed, well, they need someone to replace him, so may as well, give this kid his debut. Funnily enough, actually, the chair attack that was about to happen on Mochi was actually being committed by Love and Peace member Hyo. I just find that to be very funny. So the son reveal, which shocked everyone, led to the actual establishment of M2K as a unit in Dragongate, once more, becoming M3K, with the addition of another Mochizuki. At first he was going to be known as Ryoto Mochizuki, which is his birth name, but that was quickly changed to Mochizuki Jr. thanks to Ultimo. I want to note here that Masaharu Eto, his pseudonym, was not a random name that was made up, but an actual reference to Mochizuki. Now, I could be wrong here, but if I recall correctly, if Mochi lost the match that had Susumu Yokosuka become Susumu Mochizuki, Mochi would have become Masaharu Eto. So he won the Dragongate with M3K 1 month after his debut. He was the man that both Ishin and Kato betrayed. Throughout M3K's existence, he would challenge his father's overbearing attitude towards him, but they never truly fell out or turned on each other. When M3K disbanded, Junior embarked on an excursion to Europe. He worked predominantly in the UK. When he returned, he ended up getting picked up, literally, by Ben K. When Junior returned, he wrestled his father, and after the match, Ben just swooped in, scooped Junior up, and just left with him. It was the most mild kidnapping I've ever seen. He is a huge JoJo's Bizarre Adventure fanboy. He is a victim of Rita's bullying. Rita likes to pick on Junior a lot and pull his hair, but I think it's, quite a sort of like a tsundere sort of relationship. They're also not afraid to beat each other up for materialistic reasons. On an episode of Prime Zone, which is Dragongate's wacky studio show, the then GM, Ishin, dangled a promise of a Nintendo Switch in front of them during a singles match between the two. The box turned out to be an original Switch box with a tree hastily stuck on it, and inside the box was just a photo of Ishin in only a towel after getting out of the bath. He is also a casual cross-dresser. So also on Prime Zone was the cross-dressing incident. So for Halloween, they decided they would dress up for the main event in randomly selected costumes. They only had a select number of costumes. So when Rita ended up being out of the match, Junior said that Rita could have the costume that he drew out of the lottery, and that Junior would just wear a costume he already had on him. Proceeded to come out in a Sailor Venus costume from Sailor Moon and a purple wig. So he just already had this on him. Why? Next up is Kung Fu Masters, a Kobe exclusive faction. Kung Fu Masters only appear in Kobe, but all 3 of the members do show up on non-Kobe shows as just unaffiliated members of the roster. First is Ho Ho Lun, who was born on the 19th of July 1987. He's from Hong Kong, and he debuted on the 6th of June 2009. He got into wrestling due to WWE and New Japan Pro Wrestling. wanted to become a wrestler, but he had a slight problem. There was no wrestling training in Hong Kong, so he travelled over to Guangzhou, China, to train with China Wrestling Entertainment, or CWE. Not content with just becoming a wrestler himself, he brought wrestling back to Hong Kong by founding the Hong Kong Pro Wrestling Federation, or the HKWF. Side of his home country has also had a lot of impact on Southeast Asia's wrestling scene too. This is to the point where he is regarded as the godfather of wrestling in the region. He competed in the WWE Cruiserweight Classic alongside Jason, but unlike Jason, he actually continued to make appearances for them on the NXT brand from 2016 to 2017. The next year, Ho-Ho would make his debut for Dragongate, and he would start wrestling in Japan with them in 2019. He would get caught up in the Jason Lee saga of 2022 due to his friendship with Jason, which is what led to the creation of Kung Fu Masters. To explain, Jason ended up having to be rather mean towards Ho-Ho to convince Shun that he had turned heel. The two would reconcile, but as an extra favour, Jason agreed to team up with Ho-Ho in Kung Fu Masters. Kamei ended up joining in, as well as Super Shenlong III, who was apparently a friend of Ho-Ho's. I do say apparently a friend. That's how their relationship was described. I do have my suspicions after witnessing them practically cuddling on the floor one time. So, as of January 2025, he became an official Dragongate roster member. Congrats, Ho-Ho. He is an English commentator. He is one half of the English commentary team for Dragongate alongside Jay, and they are the best English commentary team in Pro Wrestling today. I will stand by it. He is the overseas overseer. I have made up this title to describe Ho-Ho's role as both the person you can contact in Dragongate to get tickets as an international viewer, as well as assisting Dragongate roster members in getting overseas and to their bookings without dying, getting lost, exploding, etc. He's done a pretty good job so far. We haven't seen everyone explode yet. And he is the dojo repairman. Finally, Ho-Ho is seemingly the man to call when it comes to repairs needed around the dojo, and sometimes even at shows. Next, we have Genki Horiguchi, or as he's known in Kung Fu Masters 2, Ho Lee. He's a former 4 times Brave, 2 times Twin, and 13 times Dragongate champion. He was born on the 15th of September 1978. He's from Kumamoto City in Kumamoto. Debuted on the 17th of October 1998, and he's a part of the first Toryumon class. Started out in wrestling with the A surfer gimmick, wearing wetsuit gear and bringing a surfboard to the ring. However, when his hairline began to recede, the fans started to cheer H-A-G-E at him, with Hage being Japanese for bald. This would lead to him turning heel and joining M2K. M2K would merge into fellow heel unit Do-Fixer when Yasushi Kanda retired, with Do-Fixer going on to return face. During this time, Horiguchi was involved in the iconic Do-Fixer vs. Blood Generation Trios match at ROH Supercard of Honor 2006. So this match is Seema, Masato Yoshino, and Naruki Doi versus Dragon Kid, Genki Horiguchi, and Ryu Fuda. It's one of Dragon Gate's most well-known matches for foreign audiences, and for good reason. So the match got 5 stars from Meltzer, and currently has a 9.45 rating on Cage Match, with 210 tens from the fans. I'll have the match linked down below if you're interested in checking it out. It is free on ROH's YouTube. So Horiguchi would turn heel once more, joining Muscle Outlaws and cementing himself as one of the central members of its successor faction, Real Hazard. May be surprised to hear this, but due to Horiguchi's current position and character in the promotion, but the man was an absolute menace with a really unnerving look. I will have in the description a link to a photo of Horiguchi recreating his Real Hazard look in 2024. It's pretty much exactly what he looked like in Real Hazard. So he is a founding member of Natural Vibes and also a member of Jibbies, as Genki Horiguchi H-A-G-Me. And you may be thinking, hey, wait a minute, you said that everyone in Jimmy's put a Jimmy somewhere in the name. I don't see that with Horiguchi, but there is in fact one in there. Jimmy. You can hear it. Yeah, I believe in you. You can do it. The Jimmy is the Jimmy part. Nowadays, he starts the H-A-G-E chants, and they are used to cheer him on. Fortunately, the extensions from what remains of his hair is a regular target for Horiguchi's opponents, who enjoy grabbing him and throwing him by it. Another spot that he is quite well known for is the elastic band attack, which is the same attack that Chris Brooks does in DDT right now. He just straight up took the spot from Genki. I'm hoping one day they do have a singles match where they both do the elastic band attack at the same time. Finally, we have Punch Tominaga, or as he's known in Kung Fu Masters 2, Riichi Tominaga. He was a former one-times Brave and one-times Dragongate champion. He was born on the 29th of July, 1986 in Susumu, Tokyo. Debuted on the 7th of September, 2011. Dragongate, there isn't a set amount of time that a training period runs from, but it usually doesn't take too long, maybe a year to 2 years. For Punch, it took 5 years. Apparently, it took him so long to debut because he wasn't a very good trainee and he got into a lot of trouble with his seniors/trainers. Which is why in matches nowadays you'll witness guys like Don Fuji go after him. He was a heel, as in both Berserk and Mad Blanky. Spent practically his entire career being Shingo Takagi's lackey before Shingo departed for New Japan. His lackey duties included being a literal human seat for Shingo regularly, even to this date, whenever Shingo returns to the promotion, Punch will second him. Despite the fact that Shingo loves to be mean to Punch, in the ring, beats him up a lot, they do actually seem to be close friends in Shoot. He is a member of the original Vibes prior to the Generations War. Similar to Horiguchi, he has a very storied history with his lack of hair. Notably, his name is Punch, not because of the fact that he's a wrestler or some Japanese plant words, because due to a match stipulation, he was made to go get what is called a punch perm in Japan on what remained of his hair. And then, of course, his bald head is targeted a lot by his opponents and sometimes even his teammates. However, it is possibly also his strongest asset. So this because one of his signature moves is the punch rocket, where he just launches himself at people head first. This has since evolved into the super punch rocket, which involves a friend or two launching Punch off the ropes to fly halfway across the ring and crash, hopefully, onto his opponent. He gets powered up through putting his hands in his pockets, sort of like Orange Cassidy. But Punch's powering up is a lot more intense, but unfortunately for Punch, it doesn't seem to be as effective as OC's is. The power scaling is not equal. He has the second raspiest voice in Dragongate. We will meet the owner of the raspiest voice just a bit later. And he is English commentator Jay's favourite pastime, to dunk on him. There is this dude in Riki Dragon Pro Wrestling by the name of Mochizuki Tominaga. For some reason, he shows up on like all of Punch's profiles. It's weird because Mochizuki not only wears a mask, but he has hair. I don't know how that could even be Punch. What do you mean it's a wig? And finally, we have the faction that isn't a faction, Mochizuki Dojo. Basically, the man that we are about to talk about insists that this is not a faction, but if it looks, sounds, walks, talks, and is treated like a faction, sorry, Mochi. Masaki Mochizuki is a former 3x Dream, 3x Twin, and 7x Dragongate champion. He was born on the 17th of January, 1970. He's from Kota in Tokyo. He debuted on the 21st of January, 1994. He is commonly referred to as Mochi. He has a background in karate. Started out his career in WAR and battle arts. During this time, he made an appearance in New Japan in the 1995 Super J Cup, losing to Shinjiro Otani in the first round. In late 1999, he would join Torimon, quickly becoming an ace of the promotion, but already one of the older members of the roster. So, for reference, when he first joined in 1999, he was 30, which isn't old at all. But if you think about it, two guys from Torimon's first class that we've already talked about are Susumu and Horiguchi. They were both born in 78. That is a 8-year age difference between them. However, he managed to stay relevant in the promotion throughout the years, thanks to the fact that he is simply a very good wrestler who has been on top form for nearly 26 years. He participated in the 1999 Best of the Super Juniors, ending with 4 points. As mentioned previously in Susumu's slide, he was a central member of M2K and all of its forms. He is also in Agen Isu, Dire Hearts, Junction 3, and Team Veterans. He is the dojo master, or leader, of both the OG and current iterations of Mochizuki Dojo. So, as I've mentioned, there was a Mochizuki Dojo back in 2019, 2018, that had Shun, Hyo, Yukio Shioka in it. Mochizuki Dojo is quite an interesting case, not just because they're sort of a faction, but also not really a faction. Mochi doesn't like them being referred to as a faction. But the OG Mochizuki Dojo just sort of like formed around Mochi, and he wasn't the most willing to wrangle the kids. You know, he was like, he didn't really want to deal with them, but he was sort of like, his hand was forced, basically. And in 2022, before the creation of the current iteration of Mochizuki Dojo, he said that he considered Mochizuki Dojo to be a failure because of how Shun and then heel Hyo ended up. He would go on to reiterate, well, that feeling is like 90% because of Shun. But with the current iteration of Mochizuki Dojo, Mochi is much more willing to help this new crop of kids. He actually like willingly was like, hey, come be my friend and we can be Mochizuki Dojo again, you know. Like that they came to him and like, we want to tag with you. And he was like, okay, cool. Like he didn't really fight it very much. He seemed quite content with being back in this position. My theory about this was that he was feeling a bit of empty nest syndrome due to the fact that Junior wasn't with him anymore. So as mentioned just then, Junior is his actual father. Mochi was quite a helicopter parent to Junior, but it seems he's grown out of that now. You may be saying, how was he a helicopter parent? He would regularly break up pinfalls that didn't need to be broken up and was unintentionally limiting Junior's growth as a pro wrestler. He is a proud dog dad to a little brown poodle, who he may love more than his son. Mochi also does make occasional appearances in Pro Wrestling Noah. Next up we have Ryu Fuda. He was born on the 25th of September 2001. He's from Kikuta in Miyagi. He debuted on the 27th of November 2021. He was completely invested in baseball from 4th to 9th grade. During middle school, Fuda would see wrestling for the first time, came to admire the wrestlers, decided that he wanted to try to become a wrestler too. In particular, he really liked the wrestlers who prioritized kicking in their offense. This may be why he picked up Muay Thai in high school. He got to achieve his dream of what I like to call being a kicky lad, debuting against Mochi himself. He is in the same class as Ishin and Rita, but has been overtaken by them in terms of career progression. This is due to Fuda having unfortunate injury luck. But he seems to be in the clear at the moment when it comes to injuries, though. He tags often alongside fellow Mochizuki Dojo boy Daiki Yaniguchi, with the duo aligning themselves with Mochi at the same time. In Prime Zone land, Fuda is a host in Club Yanagi, whose biggest concern is making sure his hair looks good. I will be linking in the description his second singles match that he had with Mochi from the 6th of March 2024, which I really enjoyed. Fuda has also done kickboxing, and as he mentions it in his social media profiles, but I'm not too sure when he did it, or maybe if he's doing it right now. Next we have Daiki Yaniguchi. He was born on the 3rd of July 1988, and he's from Nakano in Tokyo. He debuted on the 2nd of March 2023. Daiki was a big fan of Dragongate, so much so that he got a part-time job as an attendant at Korakuen Hall just so he could be there for their shows. Same boy, same. He did try out for the dojo, but he would fail. However, due to how determined he was to work for Dragongate, they gave him another chance and he would pass. He joined the dojo on the same day as Junior, but his debut would be later than Junior's due to a broken ankle. His first actual appearance in Dragongate was as an unnamed Korakuen Hall attendant, delivering a package to then Dreamgate champion Yoshioka. If you're wondering what was in the package, it was a note from Ben K expressing his desire to challenge for the Dreamgate Championship. along with a golden rose, as he was in gold class at the time. He would then show up to deliver a note to Ryo Saito, the general manager. This note would ask the GM when he would be debuting. It's decided then and there that Daiki would debut with a Korakuen Hall attendant gimmick. When Daiki asked what this would entail, GM's response was, "Figure that one out for yourself." His debut opponent was Don Fuji, who loves bullying rookies. He has only very recently dropped this attendant gimmick, no longer wearing the uniform and sweeping up on his way to the ring. He only dropped it after giving a proper send-off to this gimmick in his best match to date, the Brave title match with Yamato. This proper send-off involved the other Korakuen Hall attendants having a guard of honor for him at the curtain when he made his entrance. I considered leaving his nickname off this profile, because I do believe it is from when he still had this gimmick, but I think it still fits him even without the explicit tie-in. As you know, he was still in Korakuen dreaming about being a wrestler. It doesn't have to be, it's not as close to like the Korakuen attendant thing as I think the other elements of the gimmick was. He is another host and actually the owner of Club Yanagi in Prime Zone Land. While Fuda is more focused on his hair, Daiki is much more preoccupied by chanting his name in a little song that goes a little something like this. Daiki, Daiki, da 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 Daiki. He likes to do this while chopping his opponent with a little extra flair. Does not seem to give him more powers though, unfortunately. And finally, we have Akihiro Sahara, was born on the 20th of August 2000. He's from Itami in Kyoto. He debuted on the 29th of September 2024. Played gridiron in both high school and university as a defensive linesman. Sahara's alma mater was Momoyama Gakuen University, where he was studying sociology. According to Jay, however, Sahara only really stuck with gridiron into university because it meant he got access to the gym. He'd passed the Dragongate entrance exam in 2023 alongside Homare. Sahara would debut in his home prefecture in Kobe Sambo Hall against Shimizu. As expected, Sahara has been butting heads with Homare ever since he debuted. Sahara is the same height as Ishin, which means he's one of the shorter members of the roster, but he makes up for this with his power and explosiveness. Got his first victory this year, after teaming with Don Fuji and Tora Owashi against Mochi, Fuda, and Daiki. This encouraged Fuji to ask Sahara if he wanted to form the totally original Fuji Dojo with him. Sahara would instead ask Mochi if he could join Mochizuki Dojo, with Mochi happily accepting him in and leaving Fuji high and dry. Fun fact here, when it was colder, Sahara was wearing a Mochizuki Dojo hoodie, and it's not actually his hoodie that, he has, but it was actually a hand-me-down from Hyo. And we are done with all the factions in Dragongate. Now we just have to look at all of the unaffiliated wrestlers, as well as staff in Dragongate. Who else can we start out with but the founder, Ultimo Dragon? He was born on the 12th of December 1966. He's from Nagoya in Aichi. He debuted on the 13th of May 1987. He's actually trained by the New Japan Dojo, but they would pass on debuting him due to his height. He's 173 centimeters or 5'8". So he moved to Mexico and started working there instead. He started out in Mexico working for the Universal Wrestling Association, or the UWA, and then in 1990 he also started working for the Universal Wrestling Federation, the UWF in Japan, and for Universal Lucha Libre, which had been founded by his mentor, Gran Hamada. So in 1991, he started working for CMLL, which is where he began working under the Ultimo Dragon mask and persona. So initially, Ultimo was in kayfabe, the last student taught by Bruce Lee, whose nickname was, of course, the Dragon. This backstory was dropped, but he kept the name of Ultimo Dragon and the general look. It's evolved a little bit, but some bits have stayed the same. During this time, he also signed with WAR in Japan and got to wrestle with New Japan, becoming the IWGP Junior Heavyweight Champ twice. From 1996 to 1998, he worked in a little promotion you probably never heard of called WCW, a run which ended in his retirement due to a botched surgery on a arm injury, and that botched surgery caused nerve damage. So he decided to focus his attention on training the next generation of stars, opening the Ultimate Dragon Gym and Tournament. He trained 3 classes: Tournament Japan, Tournament 2000 Project, and Tournament X. However, there is also a 4th class that he trained after his departure from Tournament. So he was able to unretire thanks to another surgery that repaired the nerve damage. He signed with another promotion you've definitely never heard of called WWE in 2003. He was only with WWE until April of 2004. I was born in April 2004, shout out. During this time, he got to tick 2 huge things off his bucket list, which was working Mania and working Madison Square Garden. And then WWE told him that they wanted him to unmask. And that made Ultimo ask for his release and book it back to Japan. So to return in 2004, and he would get to compete in that year's Best of the Super Juniors. He returned to Dragongate in 2019. As I mentioned, he only works as a senior advisor now. And you're maybe asking, what does that involve? Like, what does that entail as a job? I think he just basically gives them advice on like booking and stuff. He was the one who had Mochizuki Jr. have that name. Same with actually Louis Mante. His last name wasn't going to be Louis. It wasn't going to be Mante. And despite not having the position officially anymore, he is still commonly referred to as the principal of Dragongate. He lives in Mexico and returns to Japan at his leisure. Apparently, he lives in a compound with a vineyard and makes his own wine. Unsurprisingly, Ultimo is pretty much fluent in Spanish and helps the luchadors who come to Dragongate with communication. You'll know he's coming out because the stream will be muted due to Dragongate not having the copyright for Ultimo's theme song. Yes, they cannot afford to pay for their own founder's theme, which is Separados by Luis Miguel. This is apparently because if you want that one song, you have to buy Luis Miguel's entire library, which is, as you probably expect by that, really expensive. Still a really great song though. And if you're like me and you've listened to it enough in your own spare time, you'll actually hear it over the silence of Ultimo's entrance. Unsurprisingly, Ultimo also has quite a fun dynamic with the Tournament Generation guys in particular, who struggle to attack him for what should be obvious reasons. Ultimo is a certified legend, as in he will only work as much as he wants to work, which usually isn't much. So I don't think he minds his students being afraid of him, because it just means that he doesn't have to wrestle as much. Good for you, Ultimo. Next up, we have Don Fuji. He's a former 1x Dream, 2x Twin, and 7x Dragongate champion. He was born on the 6th of July, 1970. He's from Minoe in Osaka. Debuted on the 11th of May, 1997. He was originally a sumo wrestler before a knee injury caused him to transition to working in pro wrestling. So English commentator Jay often jokes about how Fuji has had this knee injury for not only longer than he's been wrestling, but longer than some members of the Dragongate roster have been alive. It's a very well-known weak spot of his. So first he worked as a sales clerk for WAR, which is where he met Mochi for the first time, before he headed over to Mexico and was recruited into the Tournament Gym, debuting in the first class. He was one of the founding members of the previously mentioned Crazy Max unit. This is not the only heel unit he helped establish, as he was also pivotal to the creation of Blood Generation. He is a certified kleptomaniac, having stolen a great variety of things over the years, the most recent example of this being Dai's skateboard. Other things Fuji has stolen includes Ryo Sato's bike, Milano Collection AT's invisible dog Michelle, Yoshino, or Masato Yoshino's pet gorilla Venezia, and he attempted to steal Genki Horiguchi's surfboard, but was unsuccessful. Venezia was in fact not a pet gorilla, but a man with dwarfism in a gorilla costume, a la Ke Morito from CML. So there seems to be a pattern where wherever Fuji has to end up missing a show, apparently due to being too hungover, he is typically replaced by either Karaoke Machine, which is an animate karaoke machine, or Strong Machine F. You can almost think they're all the same person. He's a rather cranky old man, bullying both his juniors and his tag partners if they lose the match for him. Although sometimes his crankiness is perfectly valid, like when he has to deal with Z-Brats. But in that case, he just, annoys them even more than they can annoy him. Despite his rather tough exterior, Fuji is in reality a silly guy who enjoys making us laugh. Next up is Yasushi Kanda, also known as Candy. He's a former 2x Brave, 1x Twin, and 9x Dragongate champion. He's born on the 29th of August 1978. He's from Chiba City in Chiba, debuted on the 29th of August 1998. As mentioned in Susumu's slide, he trained in the first Tournament class under Ultimo, and soon linked up with Susumu after debuting in Mexico. The duo initially joined Crazy Max when they showed up in Japan, but they actually turned on them later that same day. This led to Crazy Max tying them to the ring ropes and beating them with baseball bats, which led to Mochi swooping in to save them. Aww. Initially, Kandi and Mochi weren't too friendly with each other, and it took a hard-fought draw for the two to respect each other. Kanda was well known for having a mohawk during this time. In 2001, Kandi suffered displaced neck vertebrae and shifted over to a referee job. He retired from wrestling in September of 2002, but continued to work as a referee and was also working internally within the promotion. So when he first became a referee, he was actually a heel referee, so he'd help his faction mates, win matches and stuff. But of course, when he retired, he just became like a neutral referee, a normal referee, I guess you could say. This was until he was provoked into fighting back against Don Fuji's harassment and made his return in 2006. He's regarded as one of the best heels the promotion has ever seen, while simultaneously being a member of one of the most iconic face units in Jimmy's. Kandi is easily one of the most intimidating members of the roster, but he also has a big sweet grin and one of the cutest nicknames on the roster. Kandi's actually my favourite 21 generation guy, so I'll be linking some of my favourite moments of him in the description. Next up is Takashi. He's a former 5x Twin and 10x Dragongate champion. He was born on the 3rd of July, 1982. He's from Osaka City in Osaka, and he debuted on the 13th of December, 2004. He's formerly known as Takashi Yoshida. Initially auditioned for the New Japan Dojo, but didn't get in. However, he got the attention of New Japan's LA Dojo, and was invited to go over to the States and train there. But his height would prevent him from going any further in the New Japan system. This led to him transferring over to the Dragongate USA Dojo, and he was their first graduate. So if you're wondering, Takashi is 178 centimeters or 5'10". It was a different time. So he aligned himself with Shingo Takagi during this time before returning to Japan in November of 2006. His initial gimmick was Cyberkong, a robotic monkey man could crush pineapples with his bare hands. At first, he was assumed to be American. He came from the USA Dojo. His name was Cyberkong. He spoke English and wore a mask that covered most of his face, so you can see why people assumed he was American. It's actually Mochi who first confronted him on not actually being foreign. He worked as Cyberkong both as a face and a heel with varying levels of sanity until 2017, and this is when he put his mask on the line in a steel cage match and lost, having to reveal his identity. By varying levels of sanity, as I mentioned in Gianni's profile, Cyberkong sometimes spoke complete gibberish, and other times he was sort of capable of human speech, so varying, as you can hear. He likes to tell people to shut up, before thrusting his hand into their throats. He is one of the bigger members of the roster, but he's actually one of, if not the goofiest member of the roster. He's a YouTuber and an amateur rapper. He also works for All Japan Pro Wrestling, and is a member of Hokuto-gun. He is a current double champ in All Japan. He currently holds the Garo TV and is 1/3 of the 6-man tag team champions. Next up we have Luis Mante. He's a former 1x Dream, 1x Twin, and 2x Dragongate champion. He was born on the 14th of February 1992. He's from Monclova in Coahuila, Mexico. Debuted on the 14th of April 2005. He's formerly known as Diamante. As you maths wizards in the audience may have realized by looking at the years 1992 and 2005, Mante debuted at the ripe old age of 13. So the backstory of this is apparently that his father was a luchador, and he lost a match where he had to give up his mask. He gave his mask to Mante and told him to continue on his legacy, and that's why he debuted at 13. So of course younger debuts can be quite common in Lucha Libre, but this stands out quite a bit in Dragongate in comparison. For the rest of the roster, Mante debuted the same year as BB Hulk, which is real messed up when you think about it. So he worked in CMLL from 2009 to 2013, and then from 2017 to 2018. So worked in All Japan from 2017 to 2018, before making his Dragongate debut in 2019. He was brought in by Ultimo himself, and ended up as a member of RED. So Ultimo knew Mante was a perfect fit for Dragongate, and he was 100% right. Jay has referred to Mante in the past as the wrestler with his stats maxed out, as he's incredibly well-rounded. Additionally, he also works very well with the smaller members of the roster, like Kame and Rita. He's a really good base. He is responsible for Daya and Boctimo losing their masks, and did actually try for Ultimos, but this is when his luck would run out. He would happily put his own mask on the line to get at Ultimo and even DK's own, but he ended up being the final two in a Mascara contra Mascara Steel Cage survival match, the other man being Shun, who once more betrayed his friend to keep his own mask. Even as Diamante, it was obvious that Mante was a big old sweetheart. This is all but confirmed when he did turn face, although he has a mean streak that he is unafraid to make known. Next up we have Mondai Ryu, or Problem Dragon. He's born on the 28th of January 1983, and he's from Tajimi in Gifu. He debuted on the 9th of December 2006. Mondai Ryu is Problem Dragon in Japanese, but a majority of both Japanese and English fans refer to him as Mondai Ryu, or just Mondai. He also has the cutesy nickname of Monchan. He's also regularly called Kamata, which is his street last name, by members of the roster he trained alongside, such as KZ and Yamato. That should explain his moniker as well. So he started out his career as Ape Kamata. He was a monkey. He has been a masked man his whole career, but his face isn't a total mystery. In 2008, he began his life as a dragon, transitioning to the role of Shenlong II. Fortunately for him, his mask was a target for wrestlers such as Fuji. This took a toll on his mental stability, resulting in Mondai crashing out and removing his own mask during matches. This explains why we know roughly what he looks like, because we've seen his face, because he took off his own mask. And as you probably expect, having listened to me talk about, mascara contra mascara matches, this is quite a insane thing to do in Dragongate. This would get dropped suddenly, but it seems to have been the beginnings of his turn to the dark side and transformation into Mondai Ryu. Mondai would debut in 2012 after turning heel and joining Mad Blanky. His theme song used to just be no song and just a bunch of people booing him, and he liked to bring out a bucket of salt to throw in his opponent's eyes. It wasn't actually salt, but instead this chalk powder that is a heel group in Dragongate specialty. He has potentially the funniest Lucha apparatus record known to man or dragon. This record consists of just 2 matches. The first is Sema versus Mondai in a passport versus mask match. The second is Punch Tominaga, then known as Chihiro Tominaga, versus Mondai in a hair versus entrance theme match. Both of these matches Mondai lost, but apparently he just didn't unmask after the match with CIMA. In Prime Zone Land, Mondai enjoys trying to convince people to join his One Dragon faction, Kamatagun, and has even cloned himself multiple times over the years. By clone himself, I mean other Dragon Gate roster members wearing Mondai masks. I like to just think that he's capable of mitosis. Speaking of KZ, the man can often be heard impersonating Mondai whenever he's given the chance. KZ's Mondai impression might just be his best one. It's really good. I will have linked it in the description Mondai's current theme song. It's a bop, and I think you should listen to it. Next up is Shachihoko Boy. He's a former 1x twin and 2x Dragongate champion. He was born on the 20th of November 1980, and he's from the Oda district in Okayama. He debuted on the 23rd of January 2002. His name is often shortened down to just Shachi. Explanation here for what Shachihoko is. It is a creature in Japanese folklore that has the body of a carp and the head of a dragon. They are seen in statue form, sitting atop castles as protector spirits, keeping the building safe from fires, as it is said that they can store water in their stomachs and control the rain. They sit upside down, with their heads resting on the roof and their tails stuck up in the air, which is exactly how Shachi sits on the top turnbuckle when he makes his entrance. Shachi also has a tail on his mask, which his opponents like to grab as it incapacitates him. He has been in factions such as World 1, International, and Monster Express. He is the owner of the actual raspiest voice in Dragongate, beating out Punch for the title. His voice is so raspy, it's hard for him to be very loud. He will try to yell to get, the fans on his side, and hyped up. His opponents are usually confused about what the hell he's doing because they can't actually hear what he's saying. And the fans just sort of respond because they know what he's talking, they know why he's up there. Sasachi greatly enjoys performing his theme song as he makes his entrance, using a water bottle as a mic. If he takes long enough, which he does often, he will get to the guitar solo, and the air guitar will make an appearance. His opponents and even his own teammates usually do not enjoy his performance, just wanting him to hurry the fuck up. There is a golden robot that sometimes makes an appearance by the name of Shachihoko Machine, but there's absolutely, totally, definitely no connection. Next up we have Yosuke Santa Maria. She's a former 1x Bravegate champion, was born on the 14th of December 1991. She's from Itabashi in Tokyo and debuted on the 30th of May 2011. Dragongate's local exotica, luchadors who perform in drag. She didn't start out as Maria, initially making her first appearances under her shoot name of Yosuke Watanabe. She'd go on to work under a mask as Super Shenlong III in the Akatsuki faction alongside Shingo, Yamato, Kong, and Punch. Maria came about due to the creation of Millennials. Just made sense that the faction with very strong lucha influences that formed in Mexico would include an exotico. So I think the most well-known exotico would be Cassandra, although you may also know of Dulce Gardenia of CMLL, especially if you've watched some Fantastica Manias in the past. She had a particularly close relationship with fellow Millennial member El Lindemann, with them acting a lot like a couple. Was also in Tribe Vanguard, as well as a part of the Dragongate faction in the Generation War. Super Shenlong III would return in 2022 as a member of the first iteration of Kung Fu Masters. Maria makes limited appearances due to suffering a severe back injury in a traffic accident. She was out from November 2022 to June of 2024. She got into a car accident on a motorcycle and broke 2 of the bones in her back. I believe she got crashed into. That was what I think I heard. Another ex-Millennials member that she has a intimate relationship with is former Dragongate talent, current pro wrestling Noah talent, Aita. So Ada and Maria were in Millennials together, but the two drifted apart due to Ada turning heel and becoming leader of RED. However, when Ada was kicked out of RED, he was left with nobody to defend him from attacks from his former group, except for Maria, that is. She came to Ada's aid, and the two began to have a relationship which can only be described as some sort of BDSM dysfunctional romance. Like there was hair pulling and doming and subbing and crawling and using a whip as a makeshift leash. I'm not making any of this up. This is all real. I swear. Maria in general seems to be a very loyal person. She made her return in 2024, saving KZ because they were in Tribe Vanguard and Dragongate Generation together. She's a real sweetheart. Important to mention that Maria also enjoys doing makeovers on her peers. I've already linked some of her work earlier when talking about Kandi, but she has also done up BB Hulk and Kyo in the past as well. For a behind-the-scenes clip of Prime Zone, she even did half of UT's face in her makeup and half of her face like they mirrored each other. I'll have some links to these looks in the description. Next up is Bendito. He was born from Mexico City in Mexico, debuted on the 12th of December 2013. He is the son of Blue Monster and did work as Blue Monster Jr. until 2021. He's a trainee of International Wrestling Revolution Group, or IWRG. So I know that when Susumu and Kanda were working in Mexico, right when they debuted, they actually won the IWRG tag titles. And I also know that when Shun went on excursion, IWRG was one of the promotions he worked for. In 2021, he became Bendito, or Oni El Bendito, joining Black Generation and its sister group, Black Generation International. As a member of Black Generation International, he made his debut in Japan in GLEAT, alongside fellow, now former, BGI member Fumita. Now, Bendito is both a member of BG and BGI. Fumita was only a member of BGI, but I'm unsure about both of their statuses as members of BGI, as BGI work with GLEAT and Dragongate do not work together, to put it very simply. But Bendito should assumedly be fine to be in Black Generation still, because they don't go international. Bendito would first be seen in a Dragongate mat in Vegas during Mania Week, end up following the Dragongate boys back to Japan and start wrestling for them in May. Monte, Flamita, and himself make up Team Mexico and won the Triangle Gate titles at Kobe World. They did all wear white. Now you can actually see Bendito's white gear right here. This is why he gets a full profile. Congrats, Bendito. Bendito, like his friend Monte, also enjoys bullying the less vertically fortunate members of the roster. We don't know his birth date, but apparently we know he's 23. How do we know this? He is the second tallest Dragongate talent right now, at 190 centimeters or 6'2". According to his Lucha Wiki page in 2024, when Pentagon Jr. left AEW/AAA, there were rumors flying around that Bendito would become the next Penta, but the current AAA CEO and GM refuted them. I originally was going to mention this, but it made me laugh, and I didn't know about it, so it surprised me. But I just really liked the mental image of him in like Penta's gear, because there is a 10 centimeter height difference between Penta and Bendito. So just imagine, like, who is this really lanky Pentagon? Like, who the fuck is that? It would look really funny to me. He's like really lanky, way more lanky looking than Penta is. So it would just look really funny comparing them. I have no interest in this personally, but I do know for a fact that Bendito worked quite a bit for GCW in 2024. So if you do recognize him, it might be from that if you do watch the Independents. And finally, we have the most recent debutante in Dragongate, Kazuma Kimura. He was born on the 31st of October 2001. He's from Funabashi in Chiba. He debuted on the 5th of August 2025. He got into pro wrestling as an elementary/primary schooler, thanks to his father, who is a fan. Has been involved in sports for 12 years, from the 5th grade through to university. These sports were both judo and sambo. His alma mater is Shikokan University, which he got into with a judo scholarship. Fun fact about this university, it's actually the alma mater of Stardom legend Jungle Kyona. He would go on to place second at championships and get into weightlifting at university as well. However, he has said that all of this was done in hopes of becoming a wrestler. After watching SBK vs Kame for the Bravegate on YouTube, he became interested in Dragongate and attended his first Dragongate show in 2023. The show was Kobe World 2023 and decided to hop into the line to get an autograph from Ultimo. Ultimo laid his eyes on Kimura and went, "Wow, you look great. Are you a wrestler? You should be a wrestler." This is what convinced Kimura to try out for Dragongate, as Ultimo was the first person to give him that sort of recognition for all the work he had been putting in. On the 5th of August in Korakuen Hall, Kimura fought against Benkei in his debut match. Ben wanted to wrestle Kimura because they're both from Chiba. His idols in wrestling include Minoru Suzuki, Hiromu Takahashi, specifically as Kamitachi, Yuki Yoshioka, and Madoka Kikuta. He wants to be a power fighter like Yoshioka and Kikuta. Kimura has already been announced to be in his first big match. He will be wrestling at Dangerous Gate 2025, teaming with Yamato and Dragon Kid to face All Japan's Yuma Aoyagi, Atsuki Aoyagi, and Ryo Inoue. Dragon Gate obviously have a lot of promise in him, and so have a number of fans already. Can't wait to see how Kimura grows. We're almost done here, but here are some people who are included in the Dragongate roster, but we don't really see wrestle regularly enough for me to dedicate an entire profile to them. So first up we have La Estrella. He's a former one-time Dragongate champion. He was born on the 19th of October 1993. He's from Inagawa, Kawabe in Hyogo. He debuted on the 15th of December 2020. He is the Purple Flame Supernova. So Estrella was brought in by Shun to be a member of Masquerade. He was joked to be an alien because he was mute, had a mask that showed none of his face, looked like gravity didn't apply to him, and had a space motif. It was later revealed that he was a totally normal dude from Japan this whole time, shocking even his fellow members of Masquerade. He rarely shows up in Dragongate now, as he prefers working in Mexico primarily, but he has worked in the US as well. He actually has a talented amateur wrestling background, which is why he has a bit of a later debut date, considering his age, but he doesn't use his amateur wrestling background at all really in his pro wrestling. Next up we have Kenichiro Arai. He's a former 1x twin and 2x Dragongate champion. He was born on the 7th of July 1972. He's from Nerima in Tokyo, and he debuted on the 29th of November 1998. He is taking life one day at a time. He's often referred to as just Araken. He's a Torimon trainee with a long history in both Torimon and Dragongate. He's only appeared once in Dragongate so far this year, and generally doesn't wrestle as much now as he used to. But he does like to appear in some more obscure, smaller promotions. He is also a proud supporter of the Hanshin Tigers and was thrilled when they broke the Colonel Sanders statue River curse. Look up, if you don't know what I'm talking about, please look this up. It is really funny. You won't regret it. Finally, we have Yorosato. He's a former 1x Dream, 3x Twin, and 13x Dragongate champion. He was born on the 15th of August 1979. He's from Yamagata City in Yamagata. He debuted on the 15th of May 1999. It's Dragonfly. It's another product of the Torimon generation. He had a cyclist gimmick, which led to his bike being stolen by Don Fuji. He is also known as Cyro, and he's been in both Real Hazard and Jimmy's, the same as Horiguchi. Don't think I need to explain how impressive it is to be able to be in both one of the heel units and the face units and did not feel weird at all. He is one of the executive directors of United Japan Pro Wrestling, or UJPW. He is Dragon Gate's general manager. So just because he doesn't wrestle regularly anymore doesn't mean that you won't see him. You will. He makes all the matches and signs all the contracts for title matches. Before we go, I just want to really quickly go over some of the staff that work for Dragon Gate, as you will get to know them as you get into Dragon Gate. So first up we have Takayuki Yagi. He is the senior referee. He debuted as a wrestler for Torimon, but shifted over to refereeing full-time. He may or may not be Johnson Florida, member of the Torimon faction Florida Brothers. Then we have Kashi-san. He debuted in 2023 as a referee after trying to debut as a wrestler, fortunately getting too injured to debut, and doing a variety of other jobs behind the scenes before picking up refereeing. Sun isn't his first name or his last name, it's just a nickname. Naoto Kikuchi debuted in 1984 for IWA Japan, but would make his way over to Torimon and has been ring announcing for them ever since. Shoki Ono debuted in 2018. After also trying to become a wrestler, he was in the same class as Dragon Dia. His official roster photo has vanished from the roster page for some reason. His little profile picture is there, but if you click on it, it's blank. So here is his Twitter profile picture instead. Sorry, I couldn't have anything else to use. Ref-wise, there are a couple more that you should know about, notably Mr. Nakagawa and Duke Sato, but they have more limited schedules within Dragon Gate. They both appear usually for bigger shows, but Nakagawa keeps to the Kobe area, and Duke typically is in Tokyo more, particularly in Korakuen. Thank you for watching. A few things before you go. You're all done. Hopefully this was a bit of fun while still being educational. This has convinced you to either dive deeper into Dragon Gate or check some out. Great. That was my mission. If you have any questions, please don't be afraid to ask. And if you have any corrections for me, please don't be afraid to make those known. I'm still a very young Dragon Gate fan. As mentioned, I only started watching in 2023. So a lot of what I know comes from secondary sources. So there's a good chance I have messed up. So let me know if I have. Dragon Gate is my favourite promotion in wrestling, and I love everyone in it. Of course, as mentioned, there's the comment section, but I do have socials you can contact me on as well. I'll have my card linked in my channel description, as well as the end of the description of this video. So check me out wherever you can. Once again, thank you so much for watching. Bye.